Hello and a very good morning. It's 7 o'clock. This is Mornings on Sky News. I'm Anna.
And I'm Leah. Thanks for starting your day with us. This is how things are looking.
Maternity services fraying at the seams. Sky News investigates what it's really like to give birth in the UK, and the findings are damning.
Houston, we have a big problem. A Blue Origin rocket explodes on the launch pad, sending an enormous fireball into the sky.
Former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon admits to the worst week of her life following the embezzlement conviction of her estranged husband, Peter Murrell.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Also ahead, the simple blood test could be the key to detecting Alzheimer's decades before symptoms appear. Plus,
Tennis world number one Yannick Sinner is out of the French Open in the second round after a shocking third set collapse. Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining us. We begin today with a major Sky News investigation into the realities of giving birth in the UK.
over the past few months, hundreds of mothers, fathers, midwives and doctors have contacted us to share their stories. Many of them sadly telling us of experiences ranging from distressing to near fatal.
Well, we've taken their experiences along with tens of thousands shared online. And while, of course, many were positive, too often we found families dealing with maternity services that were anxiety-inducing and inadequate. Well, let's bring in our data and forensics correspondent, Tom Cheshire, who's with us now. So, Tom, tell us a little bit about what you discovered then.
Yeah, as you're saying, we've had so many people getting in touch with these really, really shocking stories, and we wanted to, build that out. We'll talk about those stories as well, but the bigger picture. So Sky's data and forensics team teamed up with Ipsos, and we've been looking at the online conversation. We analysed more than 380,000 posts, so a lot of posts. We put out the key issues that people are worried about in this context. And the thing is that overall, there are more than twice as many negative posts as positive. So the biggest topic in our data was about staffing, 140,000 posts around that. 19% of those, so 1 in 5, one of those are positive. But the big, nearly the majority, 48% of these posts were negative. People saying there are huge issues around very sensitive topics, such as protecting patients' dignity. Another big topic we found was about race and class. There are around 12,000 posts we analysed about that. And it was the topic that people felt most negative about online, specifically how their treatment was affected by class or race. 71% of posts about that were negative. Lots of people talking about the shocking statistics around that. The fact that black women are more than twice as likely to die during childbirth. So that was a really, really big topic. Now, those are obviously the stats, but a lot of this work has also been about speaking to people. So many people have been really, really generous with their time, sharing their stories. A lot of them are really, really tough stories. We spoke to Rachel. She's a mum we spoke to. She had a baby born prematurely, both mum and baby. Were in hospital as a result of that. They went to the neonatal intensive care unit, or NICU. They said they had good care in that, but when they went to the nursery ward afterwards, things deteriorated.
We walked in and he'd be lying in pools of sick, and we had excuses such as, well, how do you expect us to see him? He's in an incubator. Well, I expect you to go over and monitor and observe my child. Like, is that too much to ask? ECG cables, they'd be disconnected. The alarms would all be turned off. And it was like, oh yeah, but they're annoying. They're going off all the time. That NICU is the nursery. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I was bullied as a child, and it was that feeling when I walked in.
And there's plenty more like that in the sort of full film and the online article. The issue we talked about earlier was staff in terms of what posts. And we got a really good sense of what it is like for staff on the front line. We spoke to Leah Hazard, who's a midwife. She assumed she'd be a midwife for the rest of her career because that is what used to happen. Decades ago, our analysis shows that it was one of the sort of most consistent professions. People would stay in that job. Now it's one of the sectors in the NHS people are most likely to leave. Leah thought she was going to stay until retirement. She's not sure that is the case. Here's what she said to us.
People's birthing conditions are also midwives' working conditions. If my workplace is hectic, under-resourced, psychologically unsafe, stressed, then of course your birthing conditions are also going to feel stressed, unsafe, tense.
We put our findings to Kate Brintworth, who's the Chief Midwifery Officer for England, and she acknowledged that care for some women is not as good as it should be. She told Sky News that the NHS is taking action to transform care for pregnant women and their babies, including tackling unacceptable inequalities in care and outcomes.
Yeah, it's a really mixed picture, isn't it? As you say, we should acknowledge that some of the comments online are positive, but too many people perhaps having a really difficult experience. And to what extent is the government tackling this? I mean, there is a review underway, isn't there?
Yeah, there are reviews underway, and as they say, they recognise there is a problem there. But it's just, I think it's one of those things that has now really entered the public consciousness. You see that through the analysis of all the posts. This is something that people are really, really talking about. Yeah. And again, it's because so many people have been talking to us and sharing it with us. It feels like there's a much bigger conversation, hopefully a bit more pressure than there has been before.
And I think that's what's key. You know, when you go through premature birth, it happened to me. I was in NICU with my first for a week, you know, and you never forget the sounds of the monitors. This is Enzo. And having to change a nappy through the wires. And, you know, I remember my hands shaking because he was so tiny and it was such hushed tones on that ward because there were maybe 4 other beds and I felt like I couldn't do it. Powerless. And what got me through that particular point were the staff who essentially carried me through that, you know, changed the nappy for me, showed me how to do it. And then when I eventually held him for the first time, which was 2 days after I gave birth, it just made everything feel right. And we moved on to a special care ward later. So I think what you and the team have done is so important to give a voice to, you know, so many women, dads, care workers that feel voiceless in this situation. It's such a vulnerable point.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we want to hear from you, of course, about this and your experiences too, and whether you're, you know, given birth yourself and had a rough experience, or also if you're a member of NHS staff as well who are feeling stretched and struggling as well. Tom, thanks very much indeed. Really interesting. And so much more on this story on our website. Head over there. There's extensive interactive analysis there. And our colleague, Sophie Ridge, of course, is also presenting a 30-minute documentary on this, hearing from those families and workers. And you can watch that online right now by scanning the QR code that you can see on screen.
OK, bit of a gear change now, Anna. I think everyone needs that. We want to show you some incredible pictures. It's from Florida. It happened overnight. A Blue Origin rocket exploded into a huge fireball. This was during a late-night launch pad test.
So, as you can see, that fireball billowing into the sky, it shook nearby houses. The rocket, I should say, was uncrewed. No officials, officials say that no one was injured, while the flight authorities in the States say it didn't impact air traffic.
Yeah. The founder, it's Jeff Bezos, essentially calling it a very bad day, which is a bit of an understatement, isn't it? NASA also released a statement about this too, saying space flight is unforgiving and developing new heavy lift launch capacity is extraordinarily difficult, of course.
Yeah, they go on to say, we'll work with our partners to support a thorough investigation of this anomaly, assess near-term mission impacts and get back to launching rockets. And they do say they're also going to provide information on any impacts of the Artemis and moon-based programmes as it becomes available.
Yeah, we'll have more on that story through the morning. Bad day at the office, I say.
Really bad day at the office. Yeah, Exactly. Anyway, we're going to be talking to an expert actually in an hour's time about what that means for those moon mission plans. In the meantime, though, the former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has spoken out for the first time since her ex-husband was convicted for embezzling £400,000 from the Scottish National Party.
Yeah, it happened on Monday. Peter Murrell was the party chief executive at the time. He pleaded guilty to using party funds to buy things such as, luxury pens, silverware, and even a motorhome. Well, Nicola Sturgeon was speaking at an event in Ireland where she said she's still coming to terms with what happened. She reiterated she knew nothing about what was going on and was totally cleared of any wrongdoing, though concedes she still faces suspicion by many.
Well, yes, Conor Gillis was at that event and tried to get some answers out of her. Let's take a look at what happened.
Nicola, can you understand why?
Filming in here, sorry.
Nicola, can you understand why some people don't believe you when you said that?
You noticed so.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Our political correspondent Lucy McDade is with us. Conor Gillis was trying to speak to Nicola Sturgeon there. I think what's really interesting is that she spoke about, didn't she, how she feels that there's much suspicion still on her head, essentially, despite any, cleared of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, what was interesting, she wasn't taking reporter questions there, but as you say, she was at an event kind of promoting her memoir, which I think is an interesting part of this story in a way. You've got somebody who has kind of left her political career, is now trying to kind of give people a more personal side of her. She's doing what a lot of politicians do.
Instagrammy.
She has, that's kind of, exactly that, kind of trying to show a life outside of politics, almost kind of restarting and starting a new chapter, if you like. Actually, this is just coming back to haunt her. And as she said, there are questions. People are wondering, how on earth did you not know? Not only as Peter Murrell's wife, but of course, the leader of this party for all of this time. And she did say, there are questions about how I didn't know any of that, but also denying that she did, saying that this has been the worst week of her life so far. But what happens now, while she was cleared of any wrongdoing, which we should obviously stress, there are questions now what happens in Holyrood. So John Swinney, the leader of the SNP and now First Minister, he's under pressure to trigger a Holyrood inquiry into this. The Labour leader in Scotland, Anna Sarwar, one of them, they are claiming that there's been some kind of cover-up. John Swinney is absolutely denying that. But now there are actually questions whether, like the Scottish committee in Westminster, could they carry out some kind of inquiry into what happened? So I think it's safe to say this isn't going away, again, particularly for a woman who's left her political career in the past. But actually, it's not going away.
While we've got you, Lucy, I did want to ask you about a government announcement today in the wake of that extraordinary report we saw yesterday from Alan Milburn about the state of youth unemployment in this country. The government making some kind of announcement, they say, addresses part of that issue.
Yeah, rightly so, this has triggered a massive kind of policy discussion about what needs to happen, because what Alan Milburn put out in this report yesterday was some really, really quite striking revelations. So more than 1 million people now, aged 16 to 24, are either not in employment, training or education. And he says that we are risking a lost generation of young people that are anxious, depressed, rewired by social media. So we need to do something about it. So what the government has done today is say, OK, well, as part of this scheme that we've already set up, ways of trying to get more young people into work, we will add 300,000 extra work experience placements, government-funded places in big companies to help young people, particularly those that have been on universal credit for 18 months, for example. This is good. You can't deny that the government is trying to do something. But what Alan Milburn said yesterday, which I think is interesting to kind of bring back, is that he said reintroducing things on top of a broken system is not going to work. And I think, while the government is making this announcement today, there are much bigger questions around more radical reform that is clearly needed. So let's see. OK. Lucy, for now, thanks so much. And we'll be speaking with the Work and Pensions Minister, Torsten Bell, about that announcement in the next few minutes or so.
Indeed, but in the meantime, time to talk about the hope that's around that a simple blood test could help detect signs of Alzheimer's disease decades before symptoms appear.
Yeah, the findings of a new study suggest the disease may be present in midlife and already linked to cognitive changes that could be identified using a blood test. Emma Birchley's here to explain it more. This sounds game-changing, Emma. How big a deal is it? Morning.
I think this is a really big deal, actually. So what they've done, scientists in the US, as part of this research, is looked at certain biomarkers. So amyloid and tau are the proteins that build up on your brain, and that causes Alzheimer's. Now, what they've done is they have tested 1,350 people who have not been diagnosed with dementia within the age group of 53 to 69 and looked for those biomarkers. And high levels were found in more than 6% of them, so 86 people. Now, tests were carried out 5 years apart, and what they showed was that there were cognitive decline. It might be very minor, but it could be, for example, slower processing or problems with memory. And those signs are showing up in those people, even though they haven't been diagnosed with dementia. Now, as it stands at the moment, you need to have a PET brain scan, or you need to have a lumbar puncture to diagnose Alzheimer's. So this
really intrusive, yeah.
This blood test, it could be a real game changer. And it could be, according to Jackie Henley, she says it could be incredibly valuable. She's the head of research funding at Alzheimer's Research UK.
But because, I mean,
being able to diagnose dementia through blood tests could mean it's more accessible and less invasive for more people. And it's really important that that people are able to get an earlier and accurate diagnosis of dementia. It means that you can plan for the future, you get the support you need, but also, importantly, get access to new, innovative, first-of-their-kind treatments that are on the horizon.
Yeah, so far less intrusive to have a blood test than to go through the other procedures that currently needed to diagnose. But how much difference will it make to the outcomes for patients, given that there's no real treatment, is there?
Yeah, there are some treatments that you can have at very, very early signs. But I think what's really important is if you know you're someone that has these biomarkers, you can be picked, you can be selected to be part of clinical trials to find better treatments in the future. And of course, we also know that Alzheimer's can be delayed, possibly even prevented by lifestyle choices, diet, more exercise, looking after your heart health. So if you knew, then you could make some choices that might improve your chances later in life. It's all seen as very exciting by people who focus on this area. They want more research to be done, larger groups, more diverse groups. But the aim is to actually have blood tests available on the NHS as soon as 2029.
Oh, yeah, so pretty quickly.
Really.
And we're going to get a reaction from the Alzheimer's Society later on in the programme. Emma, really interesting. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks so much, Emma. Let's speak to the Work and Pensions Minister, Torsten Bell, now, who joins us in the studio. Morning.
Morning, lovely to be with you.
Yeah, you too. I just wanted to talk to you about Alan Milburn, you know, the review...
Hopefully about the review rather than about him personally.
Yeah, well, you know, it's an important statement that he made about deep-rooted change being needed. And so today you're announcing 300,000 work placements. This is spread over 3 years, so essentially want to drill into the numbers. So that's 100,000 a year that will be on these placements.
Well, it's 100,000 extra a year over the 3 years, so there's already about 100,000 placements a year taking place anyway. And it is really important to get work experience. One of the big changes we've seen as a society is people are far less likely to work as teenagers, much less likely to combine some work alongside studying. But that has a danger, which is we see big increases of people getting into their early 20s who have never worked. If you look at Alan's report yesterday, which, as you say, highlighted a really big problem we face as a country, it showed that 6 in 10 of those that are NEET today have actually never had a job. That isn't a good situation for us to be in. My first ever job was working and washing up in a pub. You learn a lot there, not just about how important it is to wash up quickly in a busy pub, but also how important it is to earn some money of your own.
So a 16-year-old watching now, how can they actually access one of these placements? If you can give us a date and how they can sign up.
Well, if they're 16, they should be in education, just to be absolutely clear. And we want to see more people in education when they're 17 and 18, because if you look what stands out in the UK compared to some other countries, is that we have much lower rates in participation in education. And by that, I mean education, training, apprenticeships, than you see in most other countries. So if someone's a bit older and they're receiving, then when they're going into the job centre will be able to refer them to work experience placements, and I think that will offer an opportunity. In half of these cases, we're talking about work experience, which is combined with structured training and a guaranteed interview at the end. And what we can see from that, from the ones we already run, is that we see a 4 in 10 people who've taken part being in work in the year afterwards.
Your own figures say 4 in 10 people who do one of these sector-based work academy programmes, short courses, combining, what is it, training, work experience and a guaranteed job interview. They moved into sustained work within 6 months or so.
Yep.
That means 6 in 10 don't. What happens to them?
Well, we need to make sure we need to do more to support them. That's what it happens in a job centre week in, week out. But it's also why we're changing the system. It's why we've changed the system when it comes to benefits last month to reduce the incentive to be labelled as too sick to work, a big problem the last government created. It's why we've changed the rules to make sure people know that they won't lose their benefits if they do try work, if they've got health challenges. It's why we're giving employers next month £3,000 if they do hire somebody who's been longer term unemployed.
But your government put up employer national insurance, brought in the Employment Rights Act, raised the minimum wage. Employers say now it's just too expensive to hire a young person, too risky with no experience. Isn't your government part of the problem?
No, we're part of the answer, and I've set out some of the things we're already doing. If you're right to say, obviously, that there are challenges for anybody taking on a young person, I've been an employer myself, that is obviously something you think about, but actually my experience of talking to employers in Swansea, where I'm the MP, is that the vast majority do want to take on younger people, and our job is to support them. That's what the hiring bonus I've just mentioned that comes into effect next month does. That's what focusing the apprenticeship system back onto young people that it was originally created to do is what we're doing. Because remember, under the last government, we saw a 40% fall in the number of youth apprenticeships. We're putting that right. I think that will make a real difference.
But the CBI said the government needs to reduce the cost of creating jobs. It's too expensive to hire young people. Will you do that?
Well, I think what the government needs to do, and I listen to businesses, I talk to the CBI all the time, is take decisions in the round. And when we talk about those higher taxes on some businesses, and I appreciate we have had to raise those, what is it for? Well, it's not a coincidence that NHS waiting lists have been falling since those decisions were made. We saw the biggest fall in 17 years in recent months. What does that mean? These aren't abstract numbers. People sitting on NHS waiting lists often can't go into work with their employer. If you want to grow the economy, you do have to have functioning public services. And I've heard lots of people talking about bits of the tax rises they don't like, and that's exactly what I would expect them to do. What I haven't heard from any other party or anyone else is an alternative that keeps our NHS being rescued and keeps boosting growth. And remember, we saw 400,000 extra people in employment last year.
But is this deep-rooted change, or is this just a sticking plaster?
Well, as Alan Milburn says, we do need big change, not because overall within the economy we have a high number of jobs on any historical standards. There's only been 2 years in the last 100 where we had a higher employment rate than last year. But when it comes to young people, we have been going backwards as a country over the last 2 decades, and we've got to put that right. And that's what Alan Milburn's highlighting, and that's absolutely what this government agrees with.
Why do you think young people are finding it difficult to get into jobs?
I think Alan basically sets an answer out to that question well.
You?
Well, I agree. No, I agree with Alan. I think we've got a whole host of factors coming together. I do think it is a problem that we don't see teenagers working alongside their study nowadays, learning how the world of work operates. But if you look at what young people say, they do want to work. 84% of people who are NEETs do want to work, so we do need to make sure they've got opportunities. The way hiring happens nowadays, I think, is particularly painful for young people, where they don't ever get to see anybody face-to-face, someone that can take a chance on that young person when they see them there. And we've got problems in the education and health system too. We've seen big increases in mental ill health, and we've seen, as I say, over the last 10 years, we've actually seen a reduction in the number of 18-year-olds who are either in school, college or an apprenticeship. We've got to change that.
What about austerity?
Well, I mean, I think insofar as what the Conservatives left us with is a legacy of failing public services,
but you've had 2 years to make this change.
We absolutely are, and that's why waiting lists are falling. And I mean, that's the big picture to step back. People will have individual views on individual policies we've put in place, but we have made some difficult decisions. As I say, tax rises people would rather not see. Why? to make sure we can rescue our public services.
OK, tens of thousands of households in Kent, they're running out of water twice in the space of 2 months. A resident saying, I can't believe we're in 2026 and we're living like this. What has the government actually done to help those people in Kent?
Well, they're not wrong, are they? I mean, it's a disgrace what's going on.
It's wrong, but
and I was in touch with the Water Minister yesterday. I know she's seeing the Chief Exec of South East Water at 9 o'clock this morning to talk about exactly this, and obviously officials have been in place. And obviously that's the new Chief Exec of South East Water because the old one had to go because of the previous problems you've exactly mentioned that happened in Kent, where we have just seen unacceptably poor standards. In the short term, what we're doing is making sure we're in regular contact with the company to make sure people are getting the bottled water they need. We've also, remember, doubled the compensation for people when they are not getting access to the water they need and they deserve. But the longer-term answer is to invest in our water system. Once again, we're going ahead with 9 new reservoirs after those reservoirs have been blocked for year after year after year.
OK, what can you tell me about defence spending this morning?
It's up.
UK investment, and when is the plan coming out?
So if you're talking about the defence investment plan, the work is ongoing on that. We want to see it come out as soon as possible, but we do have to get the details right. But that isn't holding up levels of defence spending already increasing. They'll hit 2.6% next year, several years earlier than people said we would be able to do. And remember, contracts are going ahead. 1,200 contracts have been signed on defence investment, including. Maybe I'll answer let me answer your question. I'll come on to that. But that isn't holding up what actually matters, which is contracts going ahead. Look what's happening with the £1 billion spent on howitzers just in the last month. Look at the £1 billion contract for helicopters with Leonardo in Somerset, signed just a few months ago. We are making those investments now to support our defence industry, but much more importantly, to support the defence of this country.
With all due respect, Minister, is the Cabinet in agreement? We were expecting this review to come out last summer. It hasn't. Does that suggest that people are not agreeing within Cabinet?
No, it suggests that you've got to get the details right. I mean, look, what the conflict in Ukraine has been teaching us that there are big changes in the world of warfare, and we need to make sure that our investment plans match up to that, and we need to get the details right. That's what the Prime Minister said. It's an absolute priority for him, and we'll publish it when it's ready. OK, Trustin Bell, for now, we'll leave it there. Thanks for your company. Thank you very much.
Interesting stuff. We'll be picking up on some of those themes a little bit later in the programme. In the meantime, let me tell you what's coming up next. We're going to get more on that new study that Emma was telling us about, which claims a blood test could be key to early detection of Alzheimer's.
Hello, it's 7 o'clock. This is the Kathy Newman Show. How long's the 5 million going to last, Mr. Farage? Let's find out. Diane, who would you put in there?
It's not for me to say. I want to see.
Not yourself, not you.
Do you ever look at yourself and think, are you the problem?
I do feel sorry for him, yeah.
We'll see what happens. Does it mean, frankly, that you are an irrelevant? Great to have this lovely couple on the sofa.
I know, what a dream team they are.
She's christened the couch.
So let's get more now on the story that we were telling you about earlier. New research finding a blood test that could detect Alzheimer's decades before symptoms appear. We're joined now by Research Communications Officer at the Alzheimer's Society, Alice Carstairs. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. How much of a breakthrough do you consider this to potentially be?
So this is exciting research. We're starting to look at blood tests, as you say, being able to detect whether people have Alzheimer's proteins in their blood before symptoms could be shown. But it's important to say that at the moment, this is early research. There would be a lot more research needed to be able to show that this is the case. And that we're not quite there yet for being able to roll this out as a sort of a national screening. But it's a really important first step to making this future a reality.
Oh, it really is positive, isn't it? And just to put it into context, if someone did have a blood test today and they had these high levels of proteins in their blood, what would be the next steps? What would happen to them?
If somebody is concerned about themselves having dementia, that diagnosis pathway can look a little bit different today for everybody. You'd initially have sort of conversations with your GP, who might run some sort of memory and thinking tests with you. And then if that dementia was a concern, they would likely refer you to a specialist service where you'd undergo further tests. You might have a brain scan and you might have a lumbar puncture. But with blood tests, hopefully what we're hoping is that these are more cost effective, they're non-invasive, and they could speed that process up for people seeking a diagnosis.
Well, yes, give us more details on the advantages of an early diagnosis. As I understand it, there's no preventative medication, is that right? But does it help to know early so you can start other treatments or change your behaviour? What are the advantages of knowing earlier that you might be susceptible?
Yeah, of course. So we know that diagnosis can be really daunting for people, and you're right. At the moment, there are no sort of drugs that are available to slow progression available on the NHS. But what a diagnosis does do for you is allow you to access support, be that healthcare support or financial support that you're able to access. It also gives you time to plan. So obviously that can help you live more independently for longer. It can help you avoid crisis. And we know from Alzheimer's Society research that 97% of people we spoke to who are affected by dementia agreed with us that this early diagnosis was really helpful for people.
Yeah, so helpful. I know that researchers, they're very careful, aren't they? They say they've made this potential breakthrough, but there's caution to be had too. But look, if you are in your 60s, you're hearing this type of information, maybe you're a bit worried, maybe it runs in the family. What one piece of advice would you want them to take away from this research? Because it does seem quite hopeful.
It does seem very hopeful, and we really hope that this is a reality that we are heading towards. So if anybody listening is concerned about their memory, I would recommend visiting the Alzheimer's Society website, where we have a checklist of symptoms that can help you start that conversation with your GP. And also remember that what is good for your heart is good for your brain. So things like making sure you're taking regular exercise, looking after any long-term conditions can really help you sort of manage that risk of dementia at the moment.
And give us an idea of what people should be looking out for. Yes. You know, Leah, talking there about people might be concerned. You mentioned memory. Are there other symptoms that people can look out for?
Yes, of course. So memory is a big one, and we're all forgetful. We all forget things from time to time. But this is really looking out for things kind of impacting your everyday activities. So if you're no longer able to do things like your shopping or heading out of your house, if you're unable to retrace your steps, if these things are happening frequently, then that might be a cause for concern. Other things you can look out for are sort of changes in communication, people struggling to find the right words, or sort of repeating a question, not because they've forgotten the answer, but because they've forgotten that they've asked that question in the first place. And other things you can look out for are changes in people's sort of sense of sight and sense of hearing. These are all sort of early symptoms, but like I say, none of these are an indicator on their own. It's just if there are sort of things that are regularly impacting your everyday activities.
Okay. That's so helpful, isn't it? Yeah. Well, Alice Carstairs, we really appreciate you joining us today, and so interesting to see the progress of this potential drug blood test. Thanks very much indeed.
Now, thousands of households in Kent will go another day without running water after days of being forced to use bottled water to get through the heatwave.
Yeah, this is South East Water, who is blaming high demand for the shortages, and they've warned that for some the disruption could continue into the weekend. Sky's Oliver Whitfield-Miocic reports.
The sun's shining, the tourists are out, but in Whitstable, the water's off. South East Water says it's been too hot to keep up with customer demand. Now cafes, restaurants and pubs have all been forced to close by the council over hygiene concerns.
The restaurants should be full and pumping right now. We've got thousands of pounds worth of stock in our fridges, and unfortunately we can't sell any of it, and there's been no real update as to when we actually can.
It's very devastating because, we've had a long winter and we rely on our springs and our summers to take us through the winters, and you know how hard the pub game is at the moment.
So far, 5 collection points have been opened across Kent, but some ran dry. Only days ago, the water company said it had rolled out new technology to keep stocks topped up.
Affected customers are being allocated packs of bottled water depending on how many people live in their homes. But with temperatures in excess of 25 degrees Celsius and long queues to get here, most people that we've been speaking to say they're not impressed with their utility company, which claims to have pure know-how.
Well, they don't know how, do they? No. Unfortunately, this is what it's like in Kent at the moment.
What do you make of it all?
I think the water company needs a good kick up the backside, basically, because basically they spend all their money on paying the executives big money, and they don't put any money on the infrastructure, do they?
Their frustration has been exacerbated by repeated outages. At the end of last year, 24,000 customers had to boil water for several days on end after a plant failure. Local MP Roger Gale says it's simply not good enough.
I'm a Member of Parliament. I can't get through to South East Water. I've got what are supposed to be private accessible numbers. They're not answering. They're not answering me, they're not answering you, they're not answering the local radio stations. They're certainly not answering the general public.
Despite repeated requests, South East Water refused to speak to Sky News. In a statement, the company said, "We expect customers will start to see tap water supplies return later today, but this may be intermittent over the weekend. We are continuing to ask customers in supply to use water for essential purposes only, for example drinking, washing and cooking. All things these hospitality businesses cannot do and are now shut indefinitely, adding further uncertainty to a local economy dependent on visitors." Oliver Whitfield-Miocic, Sky News, Whitstable.
I have so much sympathy for the people without water in this extraordinary heat. I mean, the worst time to be without water. Obviously, that's why South East Water says that there is a problem. They say that it's because of too much is being used. But then I did notice some locals are saying that feels like we're being blamed for the problem.
Yeah, and in this heat wave, solidarity to all those trying to keep cool.
Yeah.
Gear change again now. Iran and the US has imposed new sanctions on the country's oil trade. This is despite ongoing negotiations to end the conflict.
Well, the US news outlet Axios is reporting that negotiators have reached an understanding about extending the ceasefire, while Vice President J.D. Vance says a deal is close.
The Iranians, they want a deal, and they want to open the Straits of Hormuz. We want them to open the Straits of Hormuz. There are a couple of issues on the nuclear stuff, the highly enriched stockpile, and also the question of enrichment. So, we're going back and forth with them. We do think they're negotiating, at least so far, in good faith, and we're making some progress. Hopefully, we'll continue to make progress. The president will be in a position where he can endorse the agreement, but obviously, that's still TBD.
Well, joining us now is Middle East analyst and former Pentagon defence official Alia Awadallah. A very good morning, a very early morning to you there. We do appreciate you getting up for us at this time. Some mixed messages we're getting about whether or not President Trump is on the verge of signing off this agreement to continue the ceasefire and allow conversations about the nuclear issues to get going. What do you think's going on?
I think it's very clear that both sides really want a deal at this stage in the war. Despite repeated violations of the ceasefire by both parties, neither has declared that the ceasefire has ended. In fact, President Trump and the White House officials have repeatedly said that the ceasefire is in place despite repeated strikes or other types of disputes between Iran and the United States. So it's clear that they're both pushing in a serious way towards a resolution and towards at least a preliminary agreement that will allow the strait to reopen. And then beyond that, of course, there are broader issues such as the small situation of Iran's nuclear program. But aside from that, it seems like they're very seriously working towards finalizing this and allowing commerce to resume through the state.
Alia, what's your reading of who holds the most power at this stage, or is it too hard to tell?
I would say it's very difficult to make that call. The United States, of course, has massive military and economic leverage over Iran. But as we've discussed previously, Iran is able to disrupt U.S. commerce and interests quite easily with its strikes and its mining of the strait. So I would say both sides have quite a bit of leverage, and they are grappling with that in whatever way that they can to exact their concessions from the opposite party that suit their interests.
Meanwhile, we've seen Israel step up its attacks on Lebanon. One of Iran's demands is that there is a ceasefire there as well. So to what extent could that hamper any progress?
I would say that's a major barrier to progress right now from within the Middle East and from Iran's perspective. Israel is clearly proceeding as much as it can to continue operations in Lebanon. It's been reported that President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have had some tense exchanges regarding this topic, and that the U.S. Wants to include a ceasefire in Lebanon as part of a final resolution. But right now, Iran and other parties within the region are quite concerned about continued operations against Lebanon, and would like to see that be part of any type of progress moving forward.
Meantime, negotiations still go on. Do you think we'll end up going back to full-scale hostilities between Iran and the US? What's your sense?
I don't imagine that we will, unless one of the parties does something that crosses a new boundary for the opposing side. But at this stage, given the scale of operations and fire that they have already exchanged, I think those limits have already been crossed. And again, both parties want to see a wind down to this war. And I don't imagine that they would be eager to resume major scale hostilities that would disrupt any current negotiations or prospects of wrapping up the war.
So we're talking about potentially a memorandum of understanding that allows for the more difficult issues to be discussed during a ceasefire. But at the end of all that, what are the chances that the US will end up with a deal that's better than the situation before they attacked Iran?
Well, I would say, frankly, I'm not optimistic that any final discussions will resolve any of the major issues on the table, such as the Iranian nuclear program. I suspect that negotiations are most likely to succeed when it comes to just reopening the strait and allowing the resumption of goods to flow and for oil prices to go down. And then the thornier issues will probably just keep getting kicked down the road without any major resolution. And I believe that's sort of the consensus from analysts who have been tracking this topic, is that that's a quite optimistic outcome, with that there would be some type of final major negotiated agreement on all of the issues that both sides care about. But I think the most likely outcome is just an immediate deal to reopen the strait, and then other things not necessarily being resolved in a satisfactory way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We really appreciate your thoughts on all of this. Alia Abdallah, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you.
OK, let's take a look at your latest weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, the record-breaking hot spell is coming to an end, with temperatures dropping over the next few days to around average by Sunday. For now, it's another warm start, especially across the sunny southeast. The UK will see a lot of cloud this morning, which will extend into the east, but Wales will brighten by lunchtime. Much of Ireland will be sunny too, and it will be largely dry, but rain will affect the windy north and west of Scotland, while showers will develop across central and southwest England. That's your weather.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Time to say very good morning to Jackie.
Good morning.
Hello to you. That weather, it affects your sleep, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
I know. I.e., we've had none.
Exactly, exactly.
It'll be fine. At some point, we will speak English.
Hopefully.
We're going to be talking darts, actually, discussing Luke Littler's victory in the Premier League last night. It should have been a very happy occasion for him, but it wasn't. He got very upset. We'll show you why. And also the big sporting shock yesterday at the French Open when the nailed-on favourite, Yannick Sinner, went out. All to come.
The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparency in journalism. We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
We gather, analyse and visualise data to tell data-driven stories. Sky News has been given exclusive data. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in. Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts watching us live.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
With respect, Minister, answer the question. It's you. Hello and welcome, I'm Cathy Newman. So could the outcome of these elections be manipulated? New me, new show, new furniture. Hard news needs a hard chair. I feel like I'm in therapy. Oh, there's room for two on this one. Do you think people will take me seriously with my feet up?
Sorry, madam, but we're closing now.
Oh, sorry. Sofa sorted, let's get this show on the road.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect.
Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story.
The battle for number 10.
Sky News has been given exclusive access.
Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget.
Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
So Jackie's here with all sport and an emotional night for Luke Littler last night.
I know, it should have been just a really happy occasion, but it was an amazing final last night. The two Lukes battling it out again. Luke Humphries, Luke Littler. Luke Littler won it the year before last. Luke Humphries won it last year. Premier League of Darts goes on for 16 weeks, and it all comes down to this, a final at the O2. Very, very good semi-finals came before it, and then they started their final. And Luke Littler was very much behind in the final. But as he always seems to do when the chips are down, he manages to claw it back. I think we can have a quick look at the action of how he got it back last night to 7-all. And he was trailing a couple of times, but when he needs his best darts, no one does it better than him in terms of reacting under the pressure. So at 10-all, it came down to the very last leg. And actually, it came down to the very last dart from Luke Littler, and he clinched it with a double 20.
Oh, amazing.
Extreme pressure, and literally right at the end. You know, it was the best of 11, and every single leg was used. Now, he averaged 111, which means he played fantastically well in that final, the 19-year-old. And then he gave his speech afterwards to Sky Sports. It should have been the happiest of happy occasions because he's literally sweeping all before him in the world of darts. But he wasn't, because he's been booed quite a few times on this tour and he hasn't really been able to handle it. And he said, at times I didn't really know if I wanted to carry on.
I was sat at home saying to Faith, I don't want to do it anymore. Just the crowd, every week in, week out. I said to her, I'm down bad, and
Take a moment.
And you've got to remember, he's 19, and booing has always been part of darts, and he's had the boos because of, you know, he's facing a Dutchman in Holland, and obviously that's going to happen, and a few little things happened that, you know, irritated the crowd. But it's all it's pantomime. It's not real. It's just how the crowd get into things, and the fact he's so good as well.
Oh, well, I wondered if that was part of it, because to begin with, I mean, everyone thought he was he was 15 when he was sort of making waves, wasn't he? And everyone was so behind him. He was the underdog. He was young, and I wondered now.
Confidence,
yes,
you know, and I think some sections of sport fans find that difficult.
He has developed
to
a swagger in the last couple of years. You know, people who work in darts said, you know, started off this very shy teenager, and now he kind of owns the place, and he knows he's the best in the world. But that's, you know, because he is. It's just a fact. But people don't like the same person to win all of the time. Which brings us sort of nicely onto Yannick Sinner at the French Open. You know, talking of someone who wins all of the time. You know, he was on a 30-match winning streak. And because Alcaraz had to pull out of the French Open with injury, Sinner was the most nailed-on of nailed-on winners in the history of nailed-on winners. You know, you might as well have said, just give him the trophy now. Nobody is going to get near him in this tournament. And yet that's not what happened, because he went out in the second round yesterday, and that caused shockwaves, I think not only in the tennis world, but if you follow sport generally, it's like, what? Yannick Sinner has gone out of the French. It was really hot yesterday in France, and he has historically struggled in hot conditions, although was at pains to point out in his press conference that it was nothing to do with the heat. But it kind of was to do with the heat. Let's have a look what happened in the match. So in a seemingly unstoppable position at 2 sets and 5-1 up, Sinner became unwell and had to call for the trainer. He left the court after eventually going on to lose the set. He said in his press conference afterwards he felt dizzy and said he'd woken up not feeling very well. He went on to lose the 4th set, left the court again. It didn't help, and then he went on to lose in 5 sets, playing down the effects of the heat in Paris yesterday. And it is, in fact, his opponents who nobody would have expected to go through, Juan Manuel Cerundolo. Now, this also happened yesterday. The American Francis Tiafoe also came through an epic second-round tie in the heat of the day, lasted over 4.5 hours with Hubert Hurkacz. So he was so pleased that at the end that he celebrated with the crowd. But this almost had disastrous consequences. Do you know why?
Yeah, well, you told me before.
But to see it, he was hugging all those people.
So,
where's the racket?
Yeah, so what happened was he had a racket in his hands when he went off, and he realised, he went to the crowd and hugged, and then he said, I have to go and congratulate my opponent and say thank you to the chair umpire. And then he realised he no longer had his racket in his hand. Somebody had taken his racket in that crowd huddle and just sort of taken it as a souvenir or whatever, and he had to put on Instagram, please give me my racket back. I can't play. I need it, because they've got a certain number of rackets, and they're probably all customised as well, you know, with weights and whatever. So anyway, he said 2 tickets to my next match, but please return my racket, and they did return his racket. Yes. So that is quite sweet. And then the other great bit of sort of, I suppose it's at the moment gossip, because the LTA have not confirmed this, is that Serena Williams could be making a comeback in the grass court season. She's been having a whale of a time in her 4 years away from tennis. She's 44 now, and has lost...
She won't be wearing that outfit,
and has lost... No. She's lost an awful lot of weight, 2 stone. She's been... and she admits that she's been using weight loss jabs, and it's really worked for her. And the thought is she'll ask for a wild card into doubles at Queen's. And her sister Venus is still playing on the tour and may well retire at the US Open. So maybe they're planning towards, we will play together at the US Open, and that will be my sister's goodbye. Who knows? It is not confirmed, but the idea of it is
quite exciting.
So exciting, football, Anthony Gordon has almost completed his move to Barcelona. Had his medical yesterday. He's staying overnight. It's thought the Formalities will be completed today. An amazing move for him from Newcastle for almost £70 million. Bayern Munich were also interested. Very good at Champions League goals this season, less so in the Premier League, but an incredible opportunity to go to Barcelona, which, you know, Barcelona, Real Madrid, you know, 2 dream clubs to go to. And Arsenal, let's not forget, Champions League final tomorrow, 5 o'clock. The team arrived in Budapest at their hotel last night. This was them arriving. And I think a lot of people, certainly a lot of Arsenal fans, think this is a free hit for Arsenal. They've won the Premier League. That was the monkey on their back. That's the thing they've been trying to win. That's the thing they've been coming second in for 3 straight years until they finally landed it and got presented with the trophy. And to have all those really positive feelings from the weekend at Crystal Palace, finally lifting that Premier League trophy. Do
you think it'll help drive them on? Does it give them momentum rather than they're tired and they're...
No, absolutely momentum and positive feelings and going in thinking, well, we did what we needed to do and this will be the cherry on the cake. They go in as underdogs. Everyone thinks PSG will win it again. Yeah. So let's see.
Who knows? Who knows? Exciting stuff.
Oh,
we'll be talking about that on Sunday morning, won't we? Top stories next.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
Hello and a very good morning. It's 8 o'clock. This is Mornings on Sky News. I'm Anna.
And I'm Leah. Thanks for starting your day with us. This is how things are looking.
Maternity services fraying at the seams. Sky News investigates what it's really like to give birth in the UK, and the findings are damning.
Houston, we have a big problem. A Blue Origin rocket explodes on the launch pad, sending an enormous fireball into the sky.
Former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon admits to the worst week of her life following the embezzlement conviction of her estranged husband, Peter Murrell.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Also ahead, singing sensation Ollie Murs will join us ahead of his 7th Soccer Aid appearance. Plus...
Very excited about this. A cinema classic returns. Toy Story 5 premieres in London 31 years after Buzz and Woody first appeared on the silver screen.
Well, a very good morning. Thanks for your company. We begin with a major Sky News investigation into the realities of giving birth in the UK.
Yes, over the past few months, hundreds of mothers, fathers, midwives and doctors have contacted us to share their stories, many of them, sadly, telling us of experiences ranging from distressing to near fatal.
Yeah, we've taken their experiences along with tens of thousands have shared online. And while many, of course, they're positive, too often we've found families dealing with maternity services that are anxiety-inducing and inadequate. Well, joining us now is data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire, who's taken a deep dive into all of this. The scale of the problem, then, Tom, what are we seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, we've been speaking to lots of people who've got in touch, shared their stories, really personal, really troubling stories in so many cases, and really, you know, incredibly grateful for that. We also wanted to give it a bit of context and wider, so going beyond the stories and saying, how much of an issue is this for people around the UK? So we teamed up with Ipsos, so Sky's data and forensics team, to look at online sentiment around this. So we analysed around 300,000 posts on this, 380,000 posts about this. So looking at the sentiment, whether it's positive, negative, and picking out the key topics. And the biggest thing that came up for in the course of this research was the staffing when it comes to maternity. This is the most popular topic. There were around 140,000 posts on this. And only 19% of those posts were positive, people saying, you know, I found this service to be amazing. What was much more likely to happen, 48% of the posts were negative, people saying there are huge issues around very sensitive topics, such as protecting patients' dignity. The other thing that popped up and was really, really apparent in the data was the were posts about race and class. So there were around 12,000 posts around this. And this was the topic that people were most negative about online, specifically how they felt their treatment was affected by their class or their race. 71% of posts about this are negative. And it's a huge, huge topic. I mean, there are shocking statistics out there. You know, the fact that black women are more than twice as likely to die than childbirth and white women, and whether that is the result of systemic racism, what's going on, all those sorts of things going on. So that's what the data was showing us.
Yeah, and I think weight is another issue as well. If people's BMI was high, they felt that they were spoken to in a certain way, in some cases, weren't they? And, I mean, to what extent is this acknowledged as an issue by the government?
I mean, there is another sort of review. There's been lots of reviews over the years. There's an ongoing review. Baroness Amos is looking at 12 NHS trusts in particular. I mean, that's quite a lot of trust to be looking into. She started, I think, in August last year. But when we're speaking to people, you know, it really brings it viscerally home. So we spoke to one mum called Rachel. She had her baby prematurely, and both mum and baby went into hospital. They went into intensive care, neonatal intensive care unit, NICU. And she says that experience was actually great in that intensive care, but it's when she came out of that things got worse.
We walked in and he'd be lying in pools of sick, and we had excuses such as, well, how do you expect us to see him? He's in an incubator. Well, I expect you to go over and monitor and observe my child. Like, is that too much to ask? ECG cables, they'd be disconnected. The alarms would all be turned off. And it was like, oh yeah, but they're annoying. They're going off all the time. That NICU is the nursery. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I was bullied as a child, and it was that feeling when I walked in.
When you hear things like that, it's obviously, you know, really tough for patients going through horrible things, but it's tough for the people providing those services, especially midwives. You know, we've analysed this, and 20 years ago, if you're going to be a midwife, it was one of the sectors within the NHS, one of the jobs within the NHS, you were least likely to leave. People would stay doing it for a long time. Now, that has completely reversed. It's one of the jobs that people are most likely to leave. Leah Hazard is a midwife, and when she started, she thought, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my career. Now, she's not so sure because of the pressure she's under. Here's what she said to us.
People's birthing conditions are also midwives' working conditions. If my workplace is hectic, under-resourced, psychologically unsafe, stressed, then of course your birthing conditions are also going to feel stressed, unsafe, tense.
So we took our findings to the NHS. Kate Brintworth, who's the Chief Midwifery Officer for England, she did acknowledge that care for some women is not as good as it should be, and she told us that the NHS is taking action to transform care for pregnant women and their babies, including tackling unacceptable inequalities in care and outcomes. So awareness that there is an issue, that it is not at the standard it should be, but whether that translates, how that translates, this ongoing review. This is such a big topic, you know, last 5 months looking at this, all the stories we've heard, all people getting in touch and sharing that, it's really, really powerful stuff, and people want to see change here.
Yeah, it's so powerful, isn't it, to give a voice to such a vulnerable point in your life. I gave birth at 36 weeks. I think we've got a picture of Enzo in NICU. It was terrifying, but I tell you what got me through this experience, a week on the NICU ward, were the staff. So showing me how to change a nappy through those tiny little circles in the incubator while the beeping of the wires and the other parents there in the ward that you have to be respectful to too. And it's interesting what that midwife said, actually, that your trauma is the staff's trauma too, because they're on that journey with you. I don't think I would have got through it without the support of that brilliant team on the NICU ward. So such an important subject. Thanks so much, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So many important stories, not just from mothers, people who've experienced miscarriage as well, but also the staff who in many cases, are saying that they feel overstretched. There's so many different important stories that we have been listening to and want to hear more from. And there's lots more on this story. You can head to the Sky News website for our extensive and interactive analysis. Our colleague, Sophy also presents a 30-minute documentary on this topic, hearing from those families and workers. And you can watch that right now online by scanning the QR code.
OK, we want to show you some incredible pictures now. It's from Florida. It happened overnight, where a Blue Origin rocket exploded into a huge fireball. This was during a late-night launch pad test.
Yeah, and as you can see, that fireball billowing into the sky, it shook nearby houses. The rocket was uncrewed, we should say, officials stressing that no one was injured. The flight authorities in the States also say that it didn't impact air traffic.
Blue Origin founder, that's Jeff Bezos, called it a very bad day, which is, well, an understatement, isn't it? Astrophysicist Dr. Maggie Liu joins us now. So how bad would you assess Blue Origin and that test flight overnight? Morning.
Morning. I think it is a massive setback, and it's obviously a huge thing. Only 2 months ago, Blue Origin tried to launch New Glenn with a client's payload on board, and they did not manage to get to the intended orbit. So FAA had grounded this rocket until just last week. So we thought it was quite a quick turnover that they were able to go from a grounded rocket to back on the launch pad so quickly. And now this happens. This is huge damage. The whole kind of launch facility has gone, right? So it's going to take many months to get back on board, and then for the FAA as well to re-clear this, because this is a mishap. Only 2 days ago, NASA said that they had selected Blue Origin to be the first phase of the moon base that they're building on the moon. And they were expecting the first launches to start as early as later this year, and this will be a huge kind of setback for them before they're able to do any launches.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos has called it a very rough day, which feels like an understatement. And they talk about a problem being an anomaly, which NASA as well say that they're going to try and look into. But how worried do you think NASA will be about this mission to build these moon-based bases? I mean, will they be worried about setbacks to that?
I think they will, because it is an incredibly short timeline. They want to establish these moon bases before the next Artemis missions launch and before the next humans go to the moon. But fortunately, NASA has came up with this plan with many commercial service providers involved. So also SpaceX is also developing their own moon landing capabilities. And so hopefully there are kind of provisions in place if Blue Origin is not able to deliver.
Maggie, you just mentioned there about SpaceX and the issues there, and then we saw what happened to Jeff Bezos' rocket also in those pictures. I mean, I have to ask, how much does this all cost? I know they're all billionaires, but it's a huge amount of money on the plate, isn't it?
It's a huge, huge amount of money, especially like with Blue Origin, their lunar lander. They were selected mainly because Jeff Bezos was funding the program itself. So it's going to be deep in the pockets of Jeff Bezos funding this. But like I said, the rocket itself is going to be tens of millions to rebuild. But the launch facility as well could be into the hundreds of billions.
Extraordinary stuff. We'll watch with interest to see what comes out of their investigations into what went wrong. Dr. Maggie Liu, really interesting to get your analysis just hours after that happened. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
OK, a bit of breaking news this morning. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has accused Russia of crossing yet another line. This is after a drone strike hit a block of flats in Romania.
Yeah, 2 people were injured when the drone crashed in the eastern city of Galati as Russia carried out attacks near the border in Ukraine. Russian drones have strayed across the border of the NATO member countries several times during the war, but this was the first time that citizens in Romania have been heard. So that's reaction there from the EU.
Yeah, we'll keep a watch on that story throughout the morning. OK, the former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has spoken out for the first time since her ex-husband was convicted of embezzling £400,000 from the Scottish National Party.
Yeah, this happened on Monday. Peter Murrell, who was the party's chief executive at the time, pleaded guilty to using party funds to buy things like luxury pens, silverware and a motorhome.
Nicola Sturgeon was speaking at an event, it was in Ireland, where she said she's still coming to terms, really, with what's happened. She reiterated she knew nothing about what was going on and was totally cleared of any wrongdoing, though concedes she still faces suspicion by many. Well, Sky's Conor Gillis was at the event and tried to speak to her. Take a look.
Nicola, can you understand why... Can you understand why...
Sorry, filming in here, sorry.
Nicola, can you understand why some people don't believe you when you said that...
You know this one.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
No. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Lucy McDade, who's here with us. So, Nicola Sturgeon, as you could see, avoiding questions there, but those questions will keep on coming, inevitably, won't they?
Yeah, and I think that video sums it up, really. She's trying to escape those questions, but actually they are just going to keep following her around. She did, though, and it's important to say, you know, she did address it last night. She's actually on a tour kind of promoting her memoir, a kind of a signal, really, of the life that she is now trying to live. She's no longer really in politics. She's trying to kind of start this new chapter. You were just saying earlier, Leah, kind of promoting it on Instagram, really trying to give it a more human side, which we see a lot of politicians do when they no longer lead a party, for example. But this is just going to keep following her around obviously, she has been cleared of any wrongdoing, important to state, but questions are now being asked about how on earth she didn't know about any of this, not just as Peter Murrell's wife, but of course as the leader of the SNP for so long. There are now calls for John Swinney, the First Minister of Scotland, to launch a Holyrood inquiry into the SNP. He is denying them, and I think it will be interesting to see where this goes. This week, the SNP were trying to kind of bring the attention to a second Scottish independence referendum, but it's been completely overshadowed by this. So this is a problem that is going to keep plaguing not just Nicola Sturgeon, but the SNP.
And meanwhile, we've been speaking to the government this morning off the back of the Milburn review yesterday. And essentially, they're announcing 300,000 work experience spots to try and address the problem of 16 to 24-year-olds not in education, not in employment.
Yeah, and, you know, we should take note of the fact that the day after the Milburn review came out, the government is trying to say, look, here we are really listening to what he raised and we are going to introduce 300,000 work experience placements. You know, there are more than 1 million young people now, 16 to 24, not in education, work or training. That is significant. The government wants to address it. But what Alan Milburn did say yesterday was that new policies on top of an already broken system will not cut it and more needs to be done. Something, I hope you don't mind, just quickly, you asked Torsten Bell about the Defence Investment Plan. Now, that is meant to be the government's kind of 10-year plan for how it will increase spending on defence. It was meant to come out last autumn. You asked him, rightly, when is it going to come? And he effectively said it will come when it's ready. And I think that's really important to point out because under the Conservatives, I think Labour would have been really pressing for this. And Keir Starmer has repeatedly said we need to go further and faster on defence and I will set out my plans. And they still haven't. And I'm almost playing into the Conservatives' hands by mentioning this morning. But I do think it's important to mention that. You know, when is it going to come? I think Keir Starmer will want it to come very soon. You know, he's in a very tricky position at the moment, so I'm sure that he wants to come out with something quite significant. But I think important to point that out, you know, that this was meant to come out last year. They still don't have a clear answer for when it will come.
Yeah, they argue that they're still carrying on making investments regardless of the fact that this hasn't been published.
They say this is a document. We are still getting on with putting more money into defence contracts, helicopter contracts. But I also think important to point out that actually the line from the government is still, it will come when it's ready. And it's difficult to process that when you've got the Prime Minister saying we need to do more and we need to go faster. But from what the public see at home is that this is just being delayed. I think it's fair to point that out while they are, you're right, still making investments in defence.
And as you say, that's what the Tories want to talk about this morning, and we have got a Defence Minister, Shadow Defence Minister, on a little bit later on. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to return to our top story now, the Sky News special investigation into just the reality of giving birth in the UK, and it's shone a really negative light on maternity services, it's fair to say.
Yeah, the Sky News website has a really interesting interactive piece on this. It is really good. You should check it out this morning. Also, our colleague Sophie Ridge has presented a 30-minute film, we mentioned it a bit earlier, speaking with families as well as workers. Let's take a look at some of that.
I'm just about to go and see the little premature baby. What have we got there? Oh, what a beautiful boy!
Having a baby can be one of the most magical times of a woman's life.
I am 30 weeks plus 2 days pregnant. The bump is getting very, very big.
Went for weigh-in this week. We finally crossed over above £8.
The midwives were amazing. They felt like my sisters.
It can also be a moment of great vulnerability and, at times, danger.
It was frantic. People were shouting over everyone.
She just sort of snapped at me and just went, I'm not here to help you.
The UK's maternity services are at breaking point, and the staff are broken too.
What do you want? More jobs! When do you want it? Now!
This job can be amazing, but in too many cases it actually destroys the people who are providing that service.
There are too many patients with too many complex needs, and there are not enough of us.
By following women, their babies and healthcare staff, and tracking the many thousands of conversations taking place online about maternity, our investigation reveals some of the greatest concerns for those going through the system and the human cost of not addressing them.
I remember putting her on my knee and I'm saying to her, not yet, please don't leave me, don't go.
And you can see the full report by scanning the QR code on screen now. But let's talk about some of the issues that piece has raised. Joining us now is NHS consultant in obstetrics and fetal medicine, Dr. Lauren Lacasing. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. So we've heard some pretty distressing stories from people who've contacted Sky News, either new mothers or even members of staff as well. And I wanted to start off with whether you could give us a sense of your experience, what you think the state of this country's maternity services are like.
Yeah, I mean, these are harrowing stories, and there's certainly an awful lot of work to be done. And part of the problem is that the issues haven't arisen overnight. They've really been a long time coming, and we've known about them for a very long time. And essentially, if I was to summarise it in one line, it would be a question of misaligned priorities. Frontline staff are trying very hard to work within the resources available, within staffing levels available to them, within the skill set that they have. Service organisers, managers are trying to protect the service by ring-fencing funding, ensuring ongoing funding, and that means introducing a series of financially driven incentive schemes and clinical safety strategies, which I'm afraid we know don't necessarily translate into better care for patients or better outcomes. And women are inevitably quite fearful about engaging with a service that they feel might let them down. They're driven by quite bizarre anecdotes sometimes, and they often look at alternative sources of information. So they often come in to the service already with quite ideological fixations on what sort of birth they're likely to get, and quite disappointed if there's a mismatch between the reality. So I think unless we align all of those things, we're really not going to get very far very quickly.
I wonder in the short term, what fixes, and if you could just be specific, because you're on the front line, you work with colleagues and you see patients, what quick fix do you think would make the most difference for families entering the NHS?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to distill it, I would say three things. I think we really need to address teaching, training and mentorship in terms of teamwork and how the service is delivered. I think the second thing would be to very, very seriously look at some of the financially driven incentive schemes that dictate how we prioritise, unfortunately, process over outcome, and that has resulted in patients and their outcomes being almost incidental byproducts of the system. And I think the third thing is to really tackle and get to grips with public information and the particularly social media driven misinformation and disinformation that is really quite damaging in terms of raising patient expectation.
That's such an interesting point, because I think a lot of people might look at some of the statistics and wonder why there is a problem, because hospital trust spending on maternity services has gone up, hasn't it? I think it's up 17% in the past 7 years. There are also more midwives over the last 3 years, and the number of babies being born is declining. So some people think that's a confusing picture, why a service is so under strain.
Yes, absolutely. The mathematics doesn't make sense at all until you drill down into what exactly those people are doing and exactly how complex the births are. So yes, you're absolutely right. The number of registered midwives has increased, has actually doubled over the last 20 years, almost doubled. Same for obstetricians. Now, obviously, they're not all full-time, so it's very difficult to read into that data what that actually means. But certainly we have a lot more midwives. And curiously, we have 30% of student midwives unable to get a placement. So something's going very badly wrong if we're saying, on the one hand, we're understaffed, and on the other hand, we can't find resources to employ our new midwives, our newly qualified midwives. And the bottom line is that many midwives are actually employed by the NHS in non-patient facing roles because they are there collecting data and feeding into these financially driven incentive schemes that I've talked about. And they're really in managerial roles. And it's quite obvious that unless you're in a pair of scrubs standing over the patient and assisting her and interacting with her, you're not really going to help her as an individual. You might be helping the system, the wider system, but you're not helping the individual mother or her baby. So we need to really look at what exactly our staff are doing rather than a head count, because I think so often reports focus on the head count and they miss the actual amount of true frontline clinical work that's being done. In terms of the reducing birth rate, yes, you're absolutely right. We have a lower birth rate now than in years gone past. But I do think, that's a bit deceptive because deliveries are getting much more complex. Pregnancies are getting more complex. Women are getting older, a lot more assisted conceptions. Many women with comorbidities and obesity is a major problem, I'm afraid, in the maternity services. And so each one mother requires more work and more effort and more appointments, more scans. So they are resource intensive, more resource intensive than they were, let's say, 30 years ago when I started training in obstetrics.
OK, thank you so much. Really good to talk to you this morning, Doctor, on a really important issue. And do take a look at the Sky News website for that interactive piece.
Let's just bring you a little bit of breaking news coming into us from South Yorkshire Police. They put out a statement in the last few moments to say that 2 people have been charged in connection with the fatal shooting of Shanice Brooks in Sheffield city centre. They say it happened outside a bar following an altercation in the street, which they say she was a bystander to. They say that a man and a woman previously arrested in Stockport have been charged in connection with this incident. Jamil Rohn, aged 30, has been charged with murder, possession of a firearm and possession of criminal property. And Darian Dice, aged 32, has been charged with assisting an offender, possession of ammunition, possession of drugs with intent to supply, possession of drugs and possession of criminal property. And both have been remanded in custody ahead of appearing at Sheffield Magistrates Court later on today. So that statement from South Yorkshire Police this morning.
Thanks so much, Anna. Still so much to come on mornings here on Sky News. After the break, we'll be talking about a new study. It's claiming a blood test could be the key to early detection of the disease. We'll be taking a look at that next. Do stay with us. Now there's hope today that a simple blood test could help detect signs of Alzheimer's disease decades before symptoms appear.
Yeah, the findings of a new study suggest that the disease may be present in midlife and already linked to cognitive changes that could be identified using a blood test. So Emma's here to explain a little bit more. So how much of a breakthrough could this potentially be, Emma, do you think?
Yeah, it could be a huge breakthrough because it would enable an easy, cost-effective test to be carried out to actually diagnose Alzheimer's. So what happens with Alzheimer's is you get a build-up of certain proteins on the brain. They are amyloid and tau. Now, at the moment, to diagnose someone, they need to have either a type of brain scan or a lumbar puncture where fluid is taken from the spine. So this is far less invasive. And this has been discovered because of research that's been carried out in the US. So 1,350 people aged between 53 and 69 have been tested for these biomarkers. And what was found was that over 6%, so that's 86 in all, had high levels of the biomarkers. And tests were carried out 5 years later. And what was shown was some cognitive decline, so slower processing, for example, difficulty recalling certain words, so memory issues. And according to the head of research funding at Alzheimer's Research, Dr. Jackie Hanley, being able to pinpoint these markers could be incredibly valuable.
Being able to diagnose dementia through blood tests could mean it's more accessible and less invasive for more people. And it's really important that that people are able to get an earlier and accurate diagnosis of dementia. It means that you can plan for the future, you get the support you need, but also importantly, get access to new, innovative, first of their kind treatments that are on the horizon.
Now, this study was published in The Lancet in the US. There was another study as well, which looks at new way of doing brain scans to detect tau protein tangles before symptoms appear. Now, what all of this is doing is enabling people carrying out future clinical trials to be able to identify exactly the right kind of participants to take part, to hopefully find new treatments to either prevent or certainly delay the onset of Alzheimer's. It also means that if you have these proteins picked up, you could make choices about the way you live your life, you know, whether it's exercise, diet, smoking, looking after your heart health, that can all delay the arrival of Alzheimer's. Now, the researchers say this is really exciting. They want more to be done, more research, larger cohorts, more diverse cohorts, but it's all a move in the right direction. And the hope is that by as early as 2029, blood tests for dementia could be available on the NHS.
Yeah, that does seem soon, doesn't it? It's amazing.
It really is soon, yeah.
Yeah, because it's such a big issue that so many families are having to deal with. And if there's a sense that you might be able to slow things down, get access to some treatment that would do that and help you do that, that must be very valuable.
So many of us have relatives or people have their own diagnoses. It does affect so many people. 1 million people with dementia currently in the UK. Between 60 and 80% of those have Alzheimer's.
Yeah, very big issue. Emma, thanks very much indeed.
OK, we're going to speak more now about that damning youth unemployment review that's been released, that 1 in 6 young people could be classed as not in employment, education or training within 5 years.
Yeah, the government is trying to get on the front foot today. They've announced they'll make 300,000 more work experience and training places available. But we wanted to get the experience of one person. I'm going to cough. Excuse me. Sorry. You
we're
carry
joined
on.
now by 24-year-old Aisha Madsen, who's previously struggled to find employment in the maternity field. Aisha, thanks so much for joining us. So just give us a sense of your story. What's been the biggest hurdle?
I would definitely say that with my education, I've always found it hard to navigate because I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression at the age of 13. So I was trying to figure out how to manage my emotions and my mental health whilst also trying to get my education, my GCSEs, because I knew how important it would be for later on down the line. And I would definitely say that with education, the struggles of not knowing the exact steps or not knowing if I was going to get my GCSEs, because I ended up not sitting them due to the pandemic, it made my depression and anxiety a lot worse.
And Aisha, I wonder, you would have seen some of the recommendations, well, not the recommendation, you would have heard the report from Alan Milburn yesterday. Did it ring a chord with you about anxiety, about being denied access to jobs, essentially, because of the current climate? Did you feel like that was you?
Yeah, I feel like that was my story. Everything that I read is pretty much what I experienced. I done everything. I got my GCSEs, and I done my health and social care diploma, extended diploma, and I thought I've got all the educational stuff that I need, so it should be much easier to leave college, get a job within the NHS so that I can start to make my route towards midwifery. And I was met with the complete opposite. I left college, I started applying, and I was met with constant rejections.
How did that feel? That must be so tough to be constantly applying and not get anywhere.
Yeah, I would say that in the beginning, I thought maybe it was because I had just left education and I didn't have enough experience. So I still kept applying. But as I started to see the more rejections coming in, my confidence started to dwindle, my mental health worsened. And I would say that I was pretty much just existing, surviving. I didn't feel any motivation to actually continue to apply to a lot of jobs in the amount that I was doing in the beginning. It just started to gradually drop.
Of course. But, I mean, you did manage, Aisha, to turn things around. Tell us what the turning point for you was.
My turning point was in 2022. I was sent an Instagram post that the King's Trust was doing a health and social care programme, and I joined the programme. I signed up. It was pretty easy. There wasn't a lot of requirements or criteria to meet. It was just to have an interest in health and social care. So I had nothing to lose. I joined the programme, and it was a 5-day programme. I was helped with interview prep, understanding health and social care more. And then I landed my first job with the NHS because of the King's Trust. So it was a big turn.
Oh, I'm so glad that things worked out for you, Aisha. Wish you well with your career, and I hope you give hope to other people watching who are going through that tough time of being out of work. And apologise for coughing. I was introducing you there. I had to leave and have a big cough. But anyway, lovely to chat to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Live TV for you,
I know.
Anna.
Thank goodness you were there.
Yeah, to carry on, always got your back. I just want to talk about Toy Story 5. It was the premiere, wasn't it, just last night. I'm so excited for this movie, 31 years after the first film was released.
I know, I can't believe it's that long. Buzz and Woody are returning, of course, thank goodness. 6 years since the last movie. The film, very relevant in today's world. iPads and technology are the villain this time round to the challenge to those old-fashioned toys. You can imagine.
Put it down. Turn it off. Do something else. Call the neighbors and say, do you want to get together? It's actually incredibly simple, and yet why is it so hard to do sometimes?
I'm more angry with my youngest right now because I'll take her to movies and she's on the damn phone at a movie. She goes, you know, they're so used to how quickly the little things come up, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, to see a movie for 2 hours, they like...
I'm not sure if I've been this excited about a film for a while. I just absolutely love them. I think they're brilliant. My daughter used to dress up as Jessie.
Oh, so cool. And do you know, just last night I was having movie night with my daughter. She's 6, and we watched the trailer and she was like, I have to see it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take you to see it. So it's, you know, cross-generational, isn't it? It's 6-year-olds and 60-year-olds.
Exactly. Me, in other words. And apparently Tom Hanks said he didn't ask any questions, just like
yes, I'm
sign me
there.
up.
I'm ready.
Which is very good to hear.
It's a great movie.
It is. Let's take a look at the weather.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, this record-breaking hot spell is coming to an end. Temperatures dropping over the next few days to around average by Sunday. For now, though, it's another warm start, especially across the sunny southeast. The UK will see a lot of cloud this morning, which will extend into the east, but Wales will brighten by lunchtime. Much of Ireland will be sunny as well, and it'll be largely dry, but rain will affect the windy north and west of Scotland, while showers will develop across central and southwest England.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, Jackie's here with all the sport ahead.
Good morning. Just before we did sport, I couldn't hear what Tom Hanks was saying in the other room.
He said, put them down.
Put them down, the iPads and the...
Oh, put them down.
Electronic devices.
Toy Story 3, my favourite film, I think, ever.
We watched that last night.
Oh, three. Interesting choice.
It's the daycare one. And they all get marched
quite
off.
dark.
In the end,
it does,
where they're almost in the incinerator.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, Jackie, that's
Spoiler
dark.
alert. I'm sorry, it's not
scary.
It's not really... Did he, at any point in the interview, go up the villa?
He didn't, funnily enough, no.
He's a massive Villa fan.
Oh,
well, I say massive, it's all relative. Anyway, we'll be talking about Luke Littler's victory in the Premier League darts last night, and also Yannick Sinner, the most favourite of favourites ever at the French Open, got knocked out. It was a huge sporting shock. We'll talk about that and show you the best bits of action in a minute.
The data and forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparency in journalism. We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
We gather, analyse and visualise data to tell data-driven stories. Sky News has been given exclusive data. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in. Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
With respect, Minister, answer the question. It's you.
Hello and welcome, I'm Cathy Newman.
So could the outcome of these elections be manipulated? New me, new show, new furniture. Hard news needs a hard chair. I feel like I'm in therapy. Oh, there's room for two on this one. Do you think people will take me seriously with my feet up?
Sorry, madam, but we're closing now.
Oh, sorry. Sofa sorted, let's get this show on the road.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty.
War isn't pretty.
Now, we've been telling you about our Sky News special investigation into maternity services in the UK, and some of the stories we've heard are truly horrifying.
Yes, and part of our coverage, we do have a brilliant interactive page on our website, which you can see in just a moment.
Yeah, Tom has been covering this for us. Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I just want to take you through this. This is on the Sky News app, on the Sky News website, and what we've been talking about all morning, the sort of idea of really personal stories with the data, and that's what you get throughout this. So, you know, all the people we've spoken to over 5 months, parents, NHS staff, their stories all here. And as you go through this, though, it's sort of weaving in. So we'll be talking here, and you'll see a highlighted text like this. This will take you into the data. This is about the number of births that have been actually falling in the UK since 2010. Or you go further, and we'll talk, we met Cheryl, who came very close to death during childbirth. And when it comes to that, you can go a bit further in. This is about the maternal mortality rate. So this is in the article, and there's a shocking story, even within this, of the fact that Britain is becoming less safe in comparison to Europe when it comes to those maternity services. All these stories, all this data, it is all there on the app. You can go through this. These are all the social media posts we were talking about earlier, nearly 380,000 of them. And again, dive into that. You can go, you know, as broad or as deep as you like with this. There's a lot of work, a lot of data. That is all on the Sky News app.
Yeah, that's really handy, Tom. Thanks very much indeed. Well worth checking out. And, of course, the half-an-hour documentary telling some of these stories that people have been talking to us about. QR code on your screen if you want to access that.
Yeah. Jack is here, though,
Hi, Jackie.
with all of today's sport. What should we start with?
I think we should start with the Premier League darts because it happened quite late last night. In fact, I saw the winning dart and went, OK, definitely time to turn the television off and try and get some sleep. But pointless because it was too hot. Anyway, might as well have just watched the whole thing right through to the end. But Luke Littler proving once again just how good he is in pressure situations, playing Luke Humphries. I mean, the Premier League of darts has gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks, 16 weeks of competition. And he was very much behind at the start of it. Then he was at the top of the table. In this match itself, it was a bit of a roller coaster, but one of the greatest finals, I think, that they have ever had. Now, let's have a look what happened, because he was behind in this final, and it was very much Luke Humphries in control. But he got himself back to 7-all, and you just knew that he would, because he's just so good when he's under the cosh that he manages to produce his best darts. Then it was down to 10-all, and it came down to this. Literally, after all those weeks, it came down to the last dart, and he sealed it. So, best of 11, he got there first. He is the champion. Should have been a very happy moment for him because he didn't win it last year. Luke Humphries did. He won it the year before. You know, he's world champion. He's world #1. All of that, and he's just cementing his place in the history of this sport. But he was pretty sad and pretty overwhelmed. He's had a lot of booing this year on the Premier League of darts, and he just said the whole crowd being against him, he's found really hard to deal with.
I was sat at home saying to Faith, I don't want to do it anymore. Just the crowd, every week, week in, week out. I said to her, I'm down bad, and I just...
Take a moment.
Yeah, I think it is, you know, just simply a case of people don't want the same person winning all of the time. And if you go
He's not the underdog anymore.
No, and if you're going along, you want to see some competition and a bit of to and fro. And, you know, if one person is always dominant, sport's not fun, is it? And there were some other issues as well along the way. But
it's a reminder of how clearly that, you know...
But when the chips are down, he brings out his best darts.
Yeah.
And it's a real sign of a champion. You know, very few people can do that because that's when you get your most nervous. But he never seems to get nervous at all. Speaking of domination of a sport, Yannick Sinner has certainly been doing that this year. He's on a 30-match winning streak. And when Carlos Alcaraz pulled out of the French Open, and he's the champion of the French Open, it was literally, my goodness, this guy is nailed on to win it. In fact, let's not even bother playing it because he is absolutely going to win it. The most nailed on people ever. But yesterday, sport threw up one of the biggest shocks, I think, of the year, the fact that Yannick Sinner lost in 5 sets at the French Open. And most people think it's because of the heat. It was really, really hot in Paris yesterday, I think about 33 degrees. It tends to be hotter on the court as well. And he has, in the past, struggled with the heat. He's absolutely said it wasn't in his press conference. No, nothing to do with the heat. But it really, really was. Let's have a look what happened. He was in a really brilliant position, seemingly unstoppable position at 2 sets and 5-1 up. And Sinner became unwell. He said he felt dizzy. He called for the trainer. And eventually he went on to lose the set and then left the court. He went on to lose the 4th set as well, left the court again and changed his clothes. It didn't help him. And then he lost the whole thing in 5 sets when he was literally 4 points away from victory. He said it wasn't the heat in Paris, but as we said, he has struggled with the heat before.
Yeah, he said he was ill, didn't he?
He said he woke up feeling not very well at all. But the kind of funny story yesterday, I thought it was quite funny. Let's have a look at this. It was the American. If you're a tennis fan, you'll know this guy. If you're not, well, he's the guy at the other end. Francis Tiafoe came through this epic encounter with Hubert Hurkacz. It was not quite 5 hours, but 4.5 hours. And he was so pleased at the end of it because I think, again, it was a real battle. He went into the crowd to celebrate, you know, an incredible win. And then he realised after he'd gone into the crowd, I need to go and congratulate my opponent or commiserate my opponent and I need to shake the hand of the chair umpire. And then he realised that he didn't have his racket in his hand, but he did have his racket in his hand when he went into the crowd.
Yeah, I just noticed the pictures. He definitely had it when he went up.
Somebody sort of like took the racket out of his hand and thought, I'll have a little souvenir here. He went back and went, I'm a racket down. And thought, no, I need that racket. You know, he's on tour. He's probably got 6, I would say. And he needs it because they restring them all the time and it's probably very customised to him. So, Instagram, please return my racket. I'll give you 2 tickets to my next match. So his racket was returned to his trainer, which is extraordinarily lucky, wasn't it? I mean...
That is very
It was
lucky.
the two people at the top of the crowd that were really, like, you know, laughing and joking, and suddenly
the racket disappeared. Yeah, very, very naughty. And the other sort of, it's not confirmed, and I've tried to stand this up with the LTA, and they're not commenting on it, but the news that sort of filtered out there from an American podcast that Serena Williams is inquiring about a wild card at Queen's Club to play the doubles. Now, Serena, 44 years of age, had another baby since she retired, has been away from tennis, really, for 4 years. This is her at the Met Gala recently, and has lost a lot of weight. Yes. She has been advertising weight loss jabs, and she has lost about 2 stone since the time when she was playing tennis, and just looks in fantastic shape. And it will be so exciting to see her back. You know, even if it's a doubles court, to see her back on grass. You know, she's won 23 Grand Slam titles. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't want to go back to the tour because it's so much work and she, you know, her age and all the rest of it. But
Queen's, nice kind of tournament to do.
Yeah, and
last
on
year
grass,
I hadn't been before,
where
and
she's
it
won
was
so
amazing.
many titles. And also, her sister Venus is still playing tennis and she's 45. And, you know, the question is she going to retire at the US Open? Maybe. That would be a great send-off. You know, the way the Murray brothers did it at Wimbledon. They played doubles and that was Andy's send-off. Maybe that's her thought process. I don't know. I'm just kind of putting 2 and 2 together, but it would be great to see her back.
Sensational.
And we should talk football as well.
Yes.
There's a transfer season very much up and running, and Barcelona doing their business early, and Anthony Gordon went out to Barcelona to do his medical yesterday. It was completed. It is thought, he stayed there overnight, it is thought that he will complete the formalities of this move from Newcastle for just under £70 million today, and do all the photographs and the signing on and all of the, you know, the PR that goes with it. Great move for him, and it also frees up money for Newcastle to do a bit of rebuilding without breaking, you know, the financial regulations. You know, really good, decent chunk of money. It does ask the question, though, Marcus Rashford, is he going to stay at Barcelona? Because he's been on loan from Man United, and can they keep both of them? And all these things kind of still up in the air. But Arsenal.
Yes.
Their great week continues. Champions League final is tomorrow, 5 o'clock. They will do press conferences, Mikel Arteta's press conference and players' press conference today around 6. The Arsenal team arrived in Budapest. This is them arriving at their team hotel last night. And I just think that this is just a cherry on the cake for Arsenal. Yes, they want to win the Champions League. Yes, it's a great opportunity to make history because Arsenal have never won it. And yes, it's 20 years since they've been in the final. But the fact is, the mission was win the Premier League. and they've won it. And is this a free hit? Do you just go in and go, oh, let's go for it? Yeah. I'm sure there's going to be a very tight plan.
But does that help you on the pitch, you think, if they're a bit more relaxed about it?
I think the pressure's off, because if they've not won the Premier League, you're going into this thinking, we've got to get something from the season. We've been so good, and you want it almost too much. Whereas they've had a week sort of relaxing and going, oh, phew, we've done really the thing we wanted to do, and this would just be
a bonus,
a really amazing bonus. And their defence is so good. I mean, they are underdogs for sure, but one match, who knows?
Anything can happen, as you always say.
Yeah,
exactly so. Jackie, brilliant stuff. We'll see you in the next hour, and stay with us for all the top stories. They're next.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect.
Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking...
Thank you so much.
...trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
Hello and a very good morning. It's 9 o'clock. This is Mornings on Sky News. I'm Anna.
And I'm Leah. Thanks for starting your day with us. This is how things are looking.
Maternity services are fraying at the seams. Sky News investigates what it's really like to give birth in the UK, and the findings are damning.
Houston, we have a big problem. A Blue Origin rocket explodes on a launch pad, sending an enormous fireball into the sky.
Former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon admits to the worst week of her life following the embezzlement conviction of her estranged husband, Peter Murrell.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Also ahead, the simple blood test could be the key to detecting Alzheimer's decades before symptoms appear. Plus,
tennis world number one Yannick Sinner is out of the French Open in the second round after a shocking third set collapse. Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining us. So we begin today with a major Sky News investigation into the realities of giving birth in the UK.
Over the past few months, hundreds of mothers, fathers, midwives and doctors have contacted us to share their stories. Many of them, sadly, telling us of experiences ranging from distressing to near fatal.
Well, we've taken their experiences along with tens of thousands shared online. And while, of course, many were positive, too often we found families dealing with maternity services that were anxiety-inducing and inadequate. Well, let's get to these stories. So Tom, what did you find?
Yeah, as you mentioned, we've had so many people getting in touch, sharing their stories. Over the last 5 months, we've been filming with them, understanding them, but we also wanted to understand the really big picture, the people we haven't spoken to as well, the overall scope of this. So Sky's data and forensics team, we teamed up with Ipsos, the experts there, to look at the online picture. So we collected around 380,000 posts online about maternity and went through those to understand the key issues and especially the sentiment around it. And overall, there's more than twice as many negative posts as there were positive. The big topic in the data was staff, 140,000 posts around that. And again, when it comes to the positive versus negative, well, 19% of these posts are positive, things like, I found this service to be amazing, but 48% of the posts were negative. People saying there are huge issues around very sensitive topics, such as protecting patients' dignity as well. One thing that really jumped out in the data too, another topic in the online conversation was race and class. There are around 12,000 posts around this. And this was the topic people were most negative about online, specifically how they felt their treatment was affected by their class or their race. 71% of posts about this are negative. All sorts of personal experiences, but also the statistics around this. The fact that black women are more than twice as likely to die during childbirth as white women. So those sorts of conversations, that seems to paint this wider picture. But a lot of the focus during this very long investigation has been on the people. We've been speaking to lots of people who've been through this, who've been through really horrible situations. We spoke to Rachel. She had a baby born prematurely. She and the baby, they went into hospital. They went into the neonatal intensive care unit, and they had a good experience there. But it's when they went back to the nursery ward that things deteriorated. Here's what she said to us.
We walked in and he'd be lying in pools of sick, and we had excuses such as, well, how do you expect us to see him? He's in an incubator. Well, I expect you to go over and monitor and observe my child. Like, is that too much to ask? ECG cables, they'd be disconnected. The alarms would all be turned off. And it was like, oh yeah, but they're annoying. They're going off all the time. That NICU is the nursery. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I was bullied as a child, and it was that feeling when I walked in.
And we were talking about staff there earlier, obviously focusing on patient experience a lot, but for staff it's really hard work, it's really demanding, it's a really tough job. I mean, 20 years ago, our analysis suggests that if you were joining up to be a midwife in the NHS, you were likely to stay in that job for a very, very long time. It's one of the most stable professions. Now that has completely reversed. It's one of the jobs that people are most likely to leave because of the pressures they are going through. So Leah Hazard, she's a midwife. She spoke to us. She thought she would be doing this job until retirement. Now she doesn't think that's going to be the case. Here's what she said.
People's birthing conditions are also midwives' working conditions. If my workplace is hectic, under-resourced, psychologically unsafe, stressed, then of course your birthing conditions are also going to feel stressed, unsafe, tense.
The NHS does know it has a problem there. We took our findings to them, and Kate Brinworth, who's the Chief Midwifery Officer for England, She acknowledged that care for some women is not as good as it should be, and she told Sky News that the NHS is taking action to transform care for pregnant women and their babies, including tackling unacceptable inequalities in care and outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. This really resonates with me, actually. It's only 8 years ago that I gave birth. It was 36 weeks, went into NICU because there were complications, and it was the staff that was able to get me through that really difficult and delicate period. Changing the nappy of a baby that you've given birth to just a few hours ago was the most nerve-wracking experience I've ever, hands down. This is Enzo. He's 8 now. He's absolutely fine. So, on the one hand, staff got me through that. On the other hand, before Enzo was born, I had a miscarriage. It was 8 weeks into that early pregnancy, and I was given a leaflet and said, "We're sorry, we've got no answers, on you go, we're busy." And so the fact that, you know, you and the team have been able to look at this and shine a light on, some of the positive, but the negative always stays with you too, and it's a hard one to sort of leave behind, but I think the Sky News website has this amazing interactive explanation of some of the voices that I think, you know, of course I work in, I think a lot of what we do is great, but this is hands down the most amazing piece of journalism that I've seen in a long time.
And you're talking about that sort of aftercare sense really features quite a lot in some of the anecdotes and stories that people are telling on that website. The fact that quite often something that's been really traumatic for them, staff haven't got the time or the resources to sort of to help you through it, and you will get a leaflet. And I think that's one of the complaints that some people had voiced. But as we say, positive stories as well, but a lot of people raising issues. So lots more on this. Tom, thank you very much indeed for your analysis, but do check out that interactive analysis on our website. It's up there now. Also, our colleague Sophie Ridge also presents a 30-minute documentary on all of this, hearing from those families and workers, and you can watch that online right now by scanning the QR code that's on screen.
We're going to bring you some incredible... Exploded into a huge fireball. This was during a late-night launch pad test. Take a look.
Yeah, and as you can see, there's the fireball billowing into the sky. It shook nearby houses. The rocket, we should say, was uncrewed, officials stressing that no one was injured, while the flight authorities in the States also say that it didn't impact air traffic.
Yeah, Blue Origin founder Jeff Bezos called it a very bad day, which is an understatement, to say the least. We spoke to astrophysicist Dr. Maggie Liu a little earlier, who told us it could be a very costly mishap.
It's a huge, huge amount of money, especially like with Blue Origin, their lunar lander. They were selected mainly because Jeff Bezos was funding the program itself. So it's going to be deep in the pockets of Jeff Bezos funding this. But like I said, the rocket itself is going to be tens of millions to rebuild. But the launch facility as well could be into the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, a big bill on the end of that, I tell you.
Yeah, big bill and questions about what it means for the various missions that they've won contracts for in the future. We will be updating you. In the meantime, though, the former Scottish First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has spoken out for the first time since her ex-husband was convicted for embezzling £400,000 from the Scottish National Party.
Yeah, this happened on Monday. Peter Murrell, who was the party chief executive at the time, pleaded guilty to using party funds to buy things such as luxury pens, silverware and even a motorhome.
Well, Nicola Sturgeon was speaking at an event in Ireland where she said she's still coming to terms with what happened. She reiterated that she knew nothing about what was going on and was totally cleared of any wrongdoing, though she does concede that she still faces suspicion by many.
Yeah, Sky's Conor Gillis was at the event and he tried to speak with her. Take a look.
Nicola, can you understand why... Can you understand why...
Filming in here, sorry.
Nicola, can you understand why some people don't believe you when you said that...
You noticed.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Lucy McDade, who's here with us. So, Nicola Sturgeon, not keen on answering Conor's questions there, but acknowledging earlier that they're going to keep on coming.
Yeah, those questions will... I think that video kind of sums it up, really. Journalists will be chasing for questions. Not just journalists either, though. You know, even though Nicola Sturgeon has been cleared of any criminal wrongdoing, questions are being asked about how did she not First Minister of Scotland? Holyrood got back to parliamentary business this week. He held this kind of symbolic vote on a second independence referendum. But he has been completely overshadowed by what's going on here. The Scottish Labour leader, Anna Sarwar, for example, saying that he should be holding a Holyrood inquiry. He says no. He says a forensic police investigation is being carried out. There's nothing to be seen here. But the questions will keep coming. In Westminster, the Scottish Affairs Committee, for example, are questioning whether this is something that they could investigate. So this is difficult for the party, difficult for Nicola Sturgeon as well. She is no longer, obviously, the leader of the SNP, trying to launch this memoir, talk more personally, start this new chapter of her life. But this is just coming back to haunt her all the time. So this is a massive, massive political scandal in Scotland. But I think we will see it, come back to Westminster, and there'll be questions asked here as well.
OK, Lucy, for now, thanks so much.
Thanks, Lucy.
Now, some breaking news that we've been talking about this morning. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has accused Russia of crossing yet another line. This is after a drone strike hit a block of flats in Romania.
2 people were injured when the drone crashed in the eastern city of Galati as Russia carried out attacks near the border with Ukraine. Russian drones have strayed across the border of the NATO member country several times during the war, but this is the first time that citizens in Romania have actually been hurt.
Let's speak to our military analyst, Sean Bell. We can talk more about this. So, Ursula von der Leyen accusing Russia, Sean, of crossing yet another line. What do you make of what we're hearing here?
Yeah, it's crossing another line is all very well, but what is NATO going to do about it? I guess that's my bottom line. I think it's very worrying. You know, this drone hits the roof of a block of flats. The devastation looks pretty intense. I think we're quite fortunate only for 2 people to be injured last night. I think what is fascinating, you said a few times that drones have landed in Romania. Quick look. I think the Romanian Defence Secretary said over 28 times have drones landed in Romania. It's just the first time that one's actually hit a building at all. I think part of the challenge here is, is Russia deliberately targeting a block of flats in Romania? No. What's likely to be happening is that the Russians are using over 1,000 drones a day. Now, when I was flying jets and we were using weapons all the time, all of those weapons have a probability of kill. In other words, they don't work 100% of the time. And we generally, if they're over 90%, that was good. Now, bearing in mind Russian technology, the pace they're manufacturing these, that would probably be ambitious. But 90%, if you're launching 1,000 drones a day, that means that you've got literally 100 drones that are going to go wayward every single day. And of course, that means you can end up with a lot of these sorts of incidents happening. Now, that paints a picture this was accidental. Unfortunately, rivet joint aircraft, we saw that in the news the other day. They've been tracking undersea cables and threatening those. We had GCHQ talking about their threat on the cyber technology. All of this is Russia is quite deliberately, strategically provoking NATO. It's not enough for NATO to simply say, we've crossed a line, or, as John Healey said, we're watching you. Ultimately, NATO is going to have to stand up eventually because Russia will keep pushing.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. And I noticed that Mark Rutte has commented on this. He said that NATO stands ready to defend every inch of Allied territory. He also talks about Russia's reckless behaviour being a danger to us all. But what action do you expect beyond continuing to bolster Ukraine and any other countries surrounding it?
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating, isn't it, that the trouble is with the drone, when this conversation's come up before, it must have been almost a year ago now, where NATO started to talk about building a drone wall down the eastern flank of NATO. I have to say that it can't be the right answer. You know, it will cost a monumental amount of money, and it's a bit like, on a football analogy, putting all your players on the goal line. You know, you're not going to win matches like that. You've got to have defence, but also attack. And actually, attack and your military capability is the best deterrence you have. So ultimately, NATO needs to take some more robust action against Russia, have a different set of rules of engagement, because at the moment, all of this is desperately keen not to avoid an escalation and therefore being very, very circumspect. You'll remember John Healey, when we had the Russian ships looking at undersea cables with their state-of-the-art submarines saying, we're watching you, we can see you. Well, quite frankly, that's not enough. We've got to have a far more robust attitude to Russia, because at the moment, almost every day that goes by, they're increasing their threat to us, and bluntly, we're ill-prepared.
OK, Sean, thank you.
Now, a new study claims that a blood test could be the key to early detection of the disease. It's a fascinating issue, whether or not a blood test for Alzheimer's is possible and can make a difference. We're going to be looking at that next.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
Well, time now to speak to the Conservatives, who are trying to force a deadline from the government to publish its long-delayed defence investment plan. David Reid is Shadow Defence Minister and joins me now. Very good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about this announcement you're making today, that you are setting out an amendment to the Armed Forces Bill in an attempt to force the government to publish its defence investment plan. I mean, what will you realistically achieve with that, given that Labour MPs aren't likely to back you, are they?
So we've been waiting for a long period of time now for this defence investment plan to come out. So the government said that they were going to release it back in autumn of last year. 9 months have passed and they use these horrible management speak terms such as working at pace. There is no plan. And just to show your listeners and your viewers how important this plan is, this will set the blueprint for how taxpayers' money is spent on our defence industry and our armed forces for years to come. And we're seeing the reports about drones hitting Romania, a NATO country. We need to be in a position where we can defend ourselves, and the investment plan is crucial to that.
You say there's no plan, but this is really about a delayed document rather than a lack of strategy, isn't it? Because the Defence Secretary saying last month to us, for example, that they're working flat out on this, that it's a huge priority for him and for the Prime Minister as well. And they're also keen to point out that it's not stopping investments carrying on. They're still investing in defence all the while. So how big a problem really is this?
This is a major problem. So, look, I'm former Royal Marine, I worked in the defence industry. Now, for some of the bigger companies that have the ability to leverage their workforce and their industrial capacity, they can force the government's hand to making out of defence investment plan procurement decisions. But for the smaller companies, the SMEs, the innovators that are coming in that want to protect our country, they are being starved of contracts. So they're either going out of business, or I'm hearing this horrible phrase, if you want to grow, you have to go. So because the world is becoming more volatile, and that's a reality that we're all facing, the Americans are investing in defence, the Europeans investing in defence. So these smaller companies in the UK are just saying, right, if contracts aren't coming out for the UK, for our Ministry of Defence, we will just go to where the contracts are. So we are placing ourselves at the back of the queue at precisely the point where the queue has never mattered more.
Well, the government would argue that they're committed to increase defence spending. They are talking about the largest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And they may say that they're partly in this position because of the Tories' legacy that they've left behind, where defence was underfunded.
So if we just look back at the last 36 years since the end of the Cold War, where we've had this peace dividend that everyone talks about, where the world was a safer place, where we were able to invest in places like the NHS or to healthcare or education. This has happened over multiple governments over more than 3 decades. The reality is now that the world is becoming more volatile, and we need to react to that volatility.
Yeah, but do you
talk
regret
about what previous governments did? Sorry, Anna.
Sorry to interrupt. I do apologise. I know that you're a relatively new MP, but do you regret the fact that your party didn't invest more in defence during their 14 years? Because Labour would argue, they'd point out that the Tories cut defence budgets in their first years in power. They didn't order any destroyers. They would talk about troop numbers falling and procurement delays as well. Do you think that the Tories could have done more when they were in office?
So hindsight is always 2020, and we can say that the last Conservative government should have done more. But the world was a much safer place. We were bogged down in conflicts on the global war on terror, conflicts that I was involved in Afghanistan. We were well funded and well kitted for those conflicts as things progresses. But we weren't preparing for state-on-state conflict, as we're seeing with Russian aggression at the moment, or issues that we're seeing in the Middle East or on the African continent. The threat has changed rapidly. And I think to have the conversation with the public 15 years ago to say, right, well, we're going to be investing in defence when the world was a safer place would have been the wrong decision. But we are in the position we are in now, and we need to react to that very, very quickly. And the defence investment plan will be crucial to setting out that stability for our defence industry and for our armed forces for the long term. And that's why we are working to make sure that the government do that, and we are going to force the vote.
I just want to ask you about another issue that obviously we've been talking about an awful lot in the last 24 hours, and that is Alan Milburn's report about NEETs, not in employment, education or training. Torsten Bell for the government announcing this morning that they're going to provide 300,000 new work placements to help thousands of young people get work experience. Do you welcome that step?
So this, for me, is socialist economics 101. It hasn't worked in the past and it's not working now. So when the government came in, they hammered business. So increases in employers' national insurance contributions, business rates, minimum wage increases, and compounded all with higher energy costs. And then you throw in a bunch of new legislation around employee rights. So businesses have been absolutely hammered. And then now to come out and react to the Milburn report and say we're going to now give taxpayers money to get more people back into work doesn't make any sense to me. We have to give business what it needs to be able to grow and to thrive and to bring young people on.
I think the idea is if people are in work, you're not paying out welfare bills, so it does make sense from that point of view. But also, I do note that Alan Milburn acknowledged that the NEET crisis has been going on for a long time. And to bring it back to the Tories again, Alan Milburn talked about systemic problems, decades in the making, rather than the fault of one particular government. I mean, isn't this something that the parties need to come together on rather than attacking each other over?
So this is a conversation that we're having in the Conservative Party under the leadership of Kemi Badenoch. There is a structural conversation that needs to be had. We are going through an industrial revolution. We're having automation and artificial intelligence rip through the jobs market. And this is going to affect people at every stage of their career. But if we look at the young people that are coming away, or more experienced people are going into those jobs, that should be a conversation that we should be having across Parliament on a regular basis, and it's barely talked about. And I think this comes back to the fact that the government knew some of these issues were coming down the track. They could have worked in opposition. They had 14 years in opposition to cook some of these ideas up, and they squandered that time in opposition. So they're having to react really quickly to the reality that they find themselves in. We will not waste our time in opposition. Kemi is leading the charge. She's making sure that across education, across defence, across all the shadow briefs, we are working together to make sure that we offer a credible alternative at the next general election.
OK, well, David Reid, we appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, there's a hope today that a simple blood test could help detect signs of Alzheimer's disease decades before symptoms appear.
Well, the findings of a new study suggest that the disease may be present in midlife and already linked to cognitive changes that could be identified using a blood test. Emma's here to explain more. At the moment, it's a more invasive test that has to go on, a more complicated procedure to find out whether or not you may develop or have Alzheimer's. So what's this blood test offer?
Yes, so at the moment it would be a PET scan, a brain scan, or a lumbar puncture where fluid is taken from the spinal cord. So what we're talking about here is, instead of that, a blood test being used, which is more cost-effective. It's obviously far less invasive, as you say. And what it would do is look for certain hallmark proteins that are linked to Alzheimer's, so amyloid and tau. Now, it's build-ups of those in the brain that cause Alzheimer's. So what's happened is 1,350 people have been involved in this research, looking for those biomarkers. And of those, just over 6%, so 86 in all, were found to have high levels. Now, tests were carried out 5 years apart, and what was discovered was that 5 years on, there had been cognitive decline, slower processing, for example, memory issues, trying to find the right word, for example. And so this now would mean that you could find out early, you could start taking treatment to slow the progress. You could also make choices about your lifestyle, for example, your diet or doing more exercise, looking after your heart health, which are all seen as really crucial. And the possibility of this blood test coming down the line has been described as incredibly valuable by Dr. Jackie Hanley, who's Head of Research Funding at Alzheimer's Research UK.
Being able to diagnose dementia through blood tests could mean it's more accessible and less invasive for more people. And it's really important that that people are able to get an earlier and accurate diagnosis of dementia. It means that you can plan for the future, you get the support you need, but also, importantly, get access to new, innovative, first-of-their-kind treatments that are on the horizon.
Now, this is seen as very exciting, lots of hope for the future, but more research is needed, a larger group, more diverse groups. And, of course, if you can spot who has got these markers, they're really useful people to be part of those clinical trials. And the ultimate aim is that actually there could be a blood test available to check for Alzheimer's by 2029 on the NHS. So that's the big goal.
That's the big goal, and definitely researchers excited about the progress they've made so far, but we'll have to wait until it all gets signed off. But Emma, thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Still to come on Mornings here on Sky News, we'll be speaking to singer Ollie Murs as he gears up for his 7th Soccer Aid appearance on Sunday. Now, Soccer Aid is in its 20th year and it's taking place again this Sunday. We're also joined by Jackie in the studio. It's a huge event, isn't it? Celebrities, legends of football all together to raise, important money for charity.
Yeah, money for children, for UNICEF, for children in need, to keep them safe, to give them fresh water, all sorts of things. And, in 20 years, £121 million has been raised, which is phenomenal. It was actually set up originally by Robbie Williams and Jonathan Wilkes, his best friend, and huge football fans. I think he's a Stoke City fan, but huge football fans. I thought, it'd be great if we could get footballers all together and do something for good. So it's celebrities and footballers. It's England versus a World 11. The World 11 won last time, I think. I actually reported on the sort of original sort of incarnation of this, which was quite small, in a park in London, before, Robbie took it on and went, let's make it something ritzy and glitzy, like a proper football match where you can buy tickets. And it will be at the London Stadium, at West Ham's ground, the Olympic Stadium, this year. So it's huge. It's really huge, and it's just a great opportunity. Look, fun, just, movie stars and soap stars who think they can play football, playing with real football stars like Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a really good spectacle, actually, isn't it? I've watched it a few times and really enjoyed it. Not in person, but I should go. But we should tell you that one person who is taking part is singing sensation, Ollie Murs, who I'm delighted to say joins us now. Very good morning to you, Ollie.
Morning.
Very exciting that we'll see you on the pitch again this weekend. But before we get to the actual Soccer Aid match, I want to hear a little bit about what you've been up to, because you've actually literally gone the extra mile this year to raise money for UNICEF, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah, so this year Soccer Aid contacted me and said we want to do a challenge. We want to do something crazy. We want to do something different. Last year, I think Sam Thompson took the ball from London to Manchester. So this year, because we're celebrating 20 years, they wanted to do where we go from Manchester back to London and do the Unknown Challenge, which was a 400-kilometre challenge where I had to run, cycle, row. And yeah, everything was unknown about it. It was a 5-day challenge, and so far I think we're close to nearly raising £1 million, which is just incredible. It was an amazing 5 days. It was hard, it was grueling, it was tough, but it was a really fantastic thing to do, and I'm just thank you to everyone that donated and got involved. And as you can see from the shots, I loved every minute of it, guys. It was fantastic.
I was going to ask, Ollie, every year you tell yourself, it's just a bit of football, just for a bit of charity, and look at you there, going to extremes to really hit home about earning that cash, 400 kilometres. I mean, how does it feel to know you're really making a difference? And just talk me through that moment that we're seeing there, how you felt.
I mean, that moment there, I just was so proud of myself, and obviously I was in pain, to be honest with you. My everything was sore. I saw my wife. That's my wife that I'm cuddling there. It's not just a random woman. But no, I was just emotional all week. The British public were out in force, just pushing me along, and I also had the opportunity to go to UNICEF and go over to Bucharest and see the amazing work that UNICEF do. And I think it's important to highlight that when we're here and the cameras are on, this is such an amazing spectacle, right? We get to play with Hollywood stars, we get to play with pros. It's an amazing game of football. We get to raise a lot of money. But for me, it's when the cameras stop, that's when UNICEF come alive. And that's when the amazing work, when these families are struggling and these kids are struggling in countries that are at war or at conflict, this is when UNICEF are there to help, and there to help the children. And to be honest with you, and I was going through this challenge and I was feeling them low points. I was always thinking of them poor children that need this money more than anyone else. And that was kind of the driving force for me. I feel really proud that I've been able to do that and leave, and this year do something so extraordinary, and that money is going to help change lots of kids' lives around the world. So yeah, that's something that I'm really, really proud of, and I'm just thankful to everyone that was involved in it and everyone that came out to see me. It was just it was mind-blowing. It really was.
Oh, Ollie, we're very proud of you as well. Amazing. It's Jackie here. I do the sport.
Hi, Jackie.
What kind of shape are you in, though, for this football match, given that you've just done all these extraordinary over and above millions of miles? How good a footballer are you, and what's the criteria for the other stars playing football? Do you just need to be a star, or do you just think you're good at football? What?
Do you know what? I just think, for us, we all think we're good at football, and then you realise quite quickly when you get here just how not good at football we are. But no, we're all at a decent level. I mean, it's just amazing to be sat on a pitch and you've got, Wayne Rooney, kicking the ball to Angry Ginge, and then Angry Ginge is just, spraying the ball over to, Alex Brooker, and you've got sort of Tom Grennan, and you've got all these different types of celebrities and stars that are here. And, it's just brilliant to see so many people take their time and effort to come and do this. And each year, I've been doing this since 2010, and it just gets bigger and better. And like you said at the start of this, for Robbie and Johnny, when they put this together all them years ago, to go on and raise 121 million is just amazing. And that really does make a huge difference. And we had a massive meeting last night of everyone, and, all the newbies that come here to explain exactly the reason why this game is so important. And, but yeah, listen, I'm a good footballer. I love it. I think I'm going to score at the weekend. But listen, the most important thing is England win and we raise a ton of money. And thank you for everyone.
That is the most important thing. But and obviously you're very good. But who is the big competition? Who of the celebrities do you think is dangerous, Ollie? Just quickly before you go.
Oh, I mean, in the rest of the world team, there's a Dermot Kennedy, singer, songwriter. He plays for them. He's always good every year. He's a fantastic player. But I mean, when you look at the rest of the world team, I mean, they've got, I think Leonardo Bonucci, Michael Essien, they've got Dimitar Berbatov. I mean, like, these players played at the highest level, won Champions Leagues, and we're, all I've got is Rear of the Year. 2013 was the biggest award I've ever won. So a little bit different.
Don't mess up then. That's all I can say, Ollie.
Yeah, I won't.
Good luck with it.
My bum might look good in my outfit.
Well, congratulations on your extraordinary challenge ahead of it. Good luck on Sunday, Ollie, and what a great event. Thanks very much indeed for chatting to us. Oh, brilliant.
I bet they get quite nervous,
Yeah, I think you would.
The stars, because if people are looking at you not for what you normally do, but for playing football and criticising, thinking, I could do better than that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's very entertaining for so many different reasons.
Got your latest weather now.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, the record-breaking hot spell is coming to an end, with temperatures dropping over the next few days to around average by Sunday. For now, it's another warm start, especially across the sunny southeast. The UK will see a lot of cloud this morning, which will extend into the east, but Wales will brighten by lunchtime. Much of Ireland will be sunny too, and it's going to be largely dry, but rain will affect the windy north and west of Scotland, while showers will develop across central and southwest England.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
I wonder when Luke Littler will be part of Soccer Aid.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Probably next year. Probably recovering this morning, having won the Premier League last night. Should have been an amazing moment for him, very happy moment, but actually he cried during his post-match interview. I think it's been quite a stressful time for him, so we'll be talking about that. And it's match day -1 for Arsenal. Champions League final tomorrow. The players have arrived.
The Data and Forensics team is a multi-skilled unit dedicated to providing transparency in journalism. We followed a social media trail that led us to Bristol, where a confrontation between protesters erupted into a full-scale riot.
Here it really is pitched battle skirmishes, hurling missiles, throwing punches.
We gather, analyse and visualise data to tell data-driven stories. Sky News has been given exclusive data. Sky News has seen 72,000 posts used in this way. Elon Musk says it is, quote, a viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America.
I think we would generally be called far right, sure.
It's called Return to the Land, and they invited me in. Its founder says he is building a fortress for the white race.
I kind of want to ask you, after seeing this, do you think what we're doing is immoral?
I'm Tom Cheshire, Sky's data and forensics correspondent.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts watching us live. I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
With respect, Minister, answer the question. It's you. Hello and welcome, I'm Cathy Newman. So could the outcome of these elections be manipulated? New me, new show, new furniture. Hard news needs a hard chair. I feel like I'm in therapy. Oh, there's room for two on this one. Do you think people will take me seriously with my feet up?
Sorry, madam, but we're closing now.
Oh, sorry. Sofa sorted, let's get this show on the road.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter? Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking,
Thank you so much.
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
Now, former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has described the last week as probably the worst of her life.
Yeah, her former husband, Peter Morrell, admitted to embezzling more than £400,000 from the political party she once led, the SNP.
Well, Nicola made her first public appearance at an event in Ireland yesterday. Our reporter Conor Gillies was there and tried to speak to her.
Nicola, can you understand why?
Filming in here, sorry.
Nicola, can you understand why some people don't believe you when you said that?
You noticed.
Nicola, why won't you answer questions from the media in relation to your husband?
Well, let's chat about this a little bit more. We're joined by Ian McWhirter, who's a Times columnist and author of Disunited Kingdom, which explores the future of Scotland and its role in the UK. So, very good morning to you. Nicola Sturgeon there avoiding the questions of our correspondent, but do you agree that they're likely to keep on coming, even though she's been very keen to point out that she knew nothing of her ex-husband's crimes and that she was exonerated by the police?
Yes, if anyone in the Scottish Government or John Swinley himself thought that the story was going to go away just because Peter Morrell pled guilty to embezzling £400,000 as party funds, they were very sorely mistaken. And this is turning into the biggest scandal of the Scottish Parliament, really, since it was created more than a quarter century ago. And the attention just in the last 48 hours has shifted quite
We seem to be having just a few technical issues with the audio from you. So we're sorry about that. We're going to try and fix that and hopefully it's stop the echo.
I'm not sure if he can hear us either. So we'll have a word with him off camera, try and fix that, and hopefully come back to him a little bit later. But let's just tell you a little bit more about our special investigation that we've been doing today. Sky News has been looking into maternity services in the UK, and some of the stories that we've heard are truly horrifying.
Yeah, as part of our coverage, we have this brilliant interactive page. It's on our website. It's up right now. And Tom, you've been covering this for us this morning, and you're actually looking at that page now.
Yeah, this is months of investigation, months of work, and if you go to the Sky News app, the Sky News website, this is what you'll see. It's a really, really deep dive into the stories and into the data. I mean, first of all, the stories. We've had so many people get in touch, sharing their stories, really powerful stories. really terrifying in some cases. Parents and NHS staff, you can go to the website, the app, and see that all here. And then as you scroll through this, you'll see these highlights pop up where you can actually, if you're interested in, say, this one, fewer babies being delivered, you'll dive into the data behind that. You can understand how the nature of childbirth has changed. But again, you go through these stories. Cheryl, who came close to death during childbirth. This is Cheryl's story. It's a really, really affecting story. But if you, again, go click on this, you'll see this. And this is a story in itself. It shows the UK maternal mortality rate, and it was higher in 2020 than 1985. It's very hard to think of any other sort of medical procedure where outcomes have got worse. We've been overtaken by Europe. For a long time, the UK was a lot better. That story just in the data showing how badly things have declined. And you just keep going through this. Marley, who's talking about the catastrophic injuries that his daughter suffered. He says medical negligence was to blame for that. We speak to staff as well. And the other thing is that data we've been talking about. So this is when we've been working with Ipsos, Sky's data and forensics team, working together with the experts there to analyse nearly 380,000 social media posts. So to go beyond just those stories and really understand the wider picture here, we've analysed them, grouped them into topics and sentiment around that. And that's all there that you can scroll through. So pulling out key themes, you can see that here. And some of this was positive. 21% of comments had a positive tone. We've got some of them, you know, I found this service to be brilliant. I had a really positive experience with my NHS trust. But the biggest chunk here, nearly 47%, so nearly half of those were mostly negative. And then you can go further through this journey, choose what you want to focus on, whether that's pregnancy, giving birth, birth teams, post-birth. Let's go into giving birth here. And you can see, again, you've got the sort of data coming up, speaking to NHS staff and how caesarean sections are putting a lot of pressure on hospital capacity. Again, speaking to Megan McLaughlin about her story, no space on the labour ward, and what happened to her, she suffered a 3rd-degree tear. That is a growing problem. So you go and click on that, and you can see the statistics around this. Severe perineal tears are 25% more common than 5 years ago. So all that data is packed through that. All these stories are here. You can go as deep as you like on this, or you can just see what other people have been speaking to us about over the last 5 months. It's got all that data, all those stories on the Sky News app and the website.
OK, Tom, for now, thank you. Do scan the QR code because there's a documentary from Sophy Ridge about the crisis in the maternity care across NHS trusts. And then do head to the Sky News website. I can't overemphasise this. It really sets out the issues, not only from patients, mums and dads, but NHS staff too.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of different experiences there. A lot of them not very positive, but it's a really interesting watch. Lots there on the website, lots here going on in the studio as well, obviously, because Jackie's here, she's back with all the sports. And we've been talking a little bit about Luke Littler this morning, haven't we? Because he should be kind of celebrating after another incredible achievement, but he got pretty emotional last night, in fact.
Yeah, he did. He won the Premier League of Darts, which has been going on since, I want to say, January, 16 weeks in total, and it finally came down to, in the end, one dart. He is so good under pressure, and he should have been celebrating, having beaten his great foe, Luke Humphreys, again. Luke won it last year, he won it the year before, and here he was with his hands on the trophy again. But he got pretty upset because he felt like the crowd hasn't been really on his side at this Premier League, and he's been booed a lot. And he is 19, and I think he's found it really difficult to deal with. I mean, a lot of the time it's very pantomime, but still, you know, it can affect you. He was behind last night. Let's have a look how he did it. He was behind. He managed to get it back to 7-all. He was under a lot of pressure in this final. At 10-all, it literally came down to the last leg and the very last dart. Here it is. And he is so good in these moments when he has to deliver. And he did, double 20. And that was the clincher. And he should have been absolutely happy and delighted and going home thinking, I've done it again. But he really broke down in his interview because, yeah, he said he's found the Premier League very difficult this year.
I was sat at home saying to Faith, I don't want to do it anymore. Just the crowd, every week in, week out. I said to her, I'm down bad, and
Take a moment.
Bless him. Yeah, feeling it really strongly.
I really, really felt very emotional. I think sport, though, can do that to you when you finally get over the line. Yannick Sinner, I don't know if he looked emotional yesterday, but he's definitely not feeling very well at the French Open. And if you said at the start of it, who's going to win the French Open now that Alcaraz has withdrawn through injury, you go, absolutely, no question, it's going to be Yannick Sinner. Put your house on it. It's not in doubt. Most nailed-on winner in the history of nailed-on winners.
I hope you didn't put your house on it.
I did not. I just about refrained from doing that because sport has this, habit of throwing up these weird things. Yannick Sinner struggles in the heat. He has struggled before. He said it wasn't the heat yesterday in France, but it really was, because once the match goes long and it's hot, he seems to have difficulty closing it out. And he said he woke up feeling ill. But the fact is, in the match yesterday, we can have a look what happened in his match yesterday at the French Open, second round match. He was in a seemingly unstoppable position, 2 sets and 5-1 up. He was 4 points away from winning it. He then became unwell. He said he felt dizzy. He called for the trainer. He eventually lost that set from 5-1 up and went off the court. He then went on to lose the 4th set. He left the court again and changed his clothes. That didn't help. He then went on to lose the 5th set as well. He barely won a game after that. He really was not very well at all. He played down the effects of the heat. And, it leaves it wide open. Novak Djokovic looking for his 25th Grand Slam title. It kind of leaves that draw wide open.
Which is good, actually, for fans.
It's really good, but for Djokovic, he was probably thinking, this is probably the best opportunity I'm ever going to get. Also, tennis chatter yesterday, which I thought was really exciting, is Serena Williams, possibly, and it's not been stood up by the LTA, possibly asking for a wild card into Queen's to play doubles. So 4 years after she walked away from tennis, she is now 44. She does this sort of thing all the time. She goes to red carpets, looks amazing, has lost 2 stone in weight, having been away from tennis and had another child, so she now has 2 children, coming back possibly to play doubles. Possibly maybe so that she can get in shape to play doubles maybe with her sister at the US Open, because her sister is 45 and no doubt thinking about retiring, maybe at the end of the year. Lots of maybes. It hasn't been confirmed. But if that were true, I think it would be
box office, wouldn't it?
It would be really box office, and it would just be great. The greatest ever female tennis player on court again. We should talk about Champions League very briefly, because Arsenal will play that Champions League final against PSG tomorrow. It is match day -1. There will be press conferences later, around 6 o'clock our time. This was the Arsenal team arriving last night in Budapest, arriving at their hotel ahead of training. I mean, I think the feeling is amongst Arsenal fans that because they've wrapped up the Premier League, because that big stress and pressure has been lifted, this is a free hit. This is something they can go into, and it would be a cherry on the cake if they could win it. They are not the favourites. PSG are the favourites, but they're going to give it a really good go. And if they could win it, great. Not the end of the world. If not, that's what fans are telling themselves.
Because they've got the big prize.
Because they've got the prize that they really wanted, which was the Premier League title.
After 22 years, they did it.
Well, they've never won this, so they would go down as the greatest Arsenal team in history.
Indeed.
That's an
Let's
incentive.
see.
That's an incentive.
Tomorrow about 5. We're out of time. Stay with us for the top stories next.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.